All right, we're live. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to Pass the Mic, the new video version of the radio show we've been doing for 3 years. Myself and the pretty guy on the other side, JP. We will have Carl Graham on the show soon as he can get his video working. We are here every week. There's going to be a YouTube channel. We're going to have every week. We're going to talk about sports, mostly New York sports, but a lot of high school sports and a lot of NCAA sports. And JP is our expert on that. JP, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I mean, it's been a slow news day, to be sarcastically speaking. It's been one after another with things.
Yeah, it's almost like when we do the show, whatever we say the week before gets erased almost the next day sometimes, because all leagues change their minds, all sports change their minds. Half of baseball wasn't playing last week. Half of football is opting out. The one thing I'll say, and I want to get into it a little later, is the one sport that is going to thrive through this, is hockey. Because
I would add the NBA to this too.
But yeah, what about the strip club? What I'll say is you got hockey that is in another country, in a bubble, playing, where it's under control and they're the best playoff sport to begin with. But let's start with your expertise. Let's start with the NCAA. We had a lot of news every single day is coming out. Big Ten announced their schedule today. It's going to start September 3rd, conference only. You and I were just talking off camera about how a lot of these FBS are going to go conference only. They pretty much are already. But why don't you talk about the Division 2 and 3 of NCAA football, right? We're talking?
No, not in general. This is across the board.
Okay, go ahead.
The NCAA was talking for a couple of weeks about this. Originally, their plan was to make it so that if half of the schools weren't playing, I think it was either half or 75%, weren't going to play, then they would officially not have a championship.
Okay.
But the presidents of each level's kind of like board of presidents, I'd call it. The committee decided to just wipe them all clean this year, not have a single championship in the fall seasons, which includes soccer, football, a couple other smaller sports here there with like cross country that all have championships.
Right. So they already announced. Hold on. Yeah, they already announced that a couple of the conferences. I know PSAC announced they were not going to be involved in the national championship. They were only going to have a conference championship. So I guess that's what happened, right? You say 75%. I guess they got to that point where they just decided, forget it. We're just going to, I can't just take the guesswork out of it. Cancel the national championship because it's not going to be a national championship anyway. Because you have PSAC, which is one of the biggest D2 conferences for football, is not playing, and you're going to have a lot of
the NE10 either. The NE10 was one of the first as well, and they both are big.
So we're talking about FCS too.
No, NE10 is.
Oh, NE10, yes.
Is D2.
Yeah.
Which is Southern Connecticut.
Yeah.
American International. It's a pretty darn strong league, but it's not.
We were almost in it. Don't worry about it. Stonehill.
And it's an interesting league with New Haven, but the problem was when they pulled out early, they were one of the first in the country to say we're not going to play.
Right.
Once the PSAC went, I think it was a matter of when, because a couple leagues out west decided to a couple days later. It was just in Division 3. It was basically a conclusion already. But right. Division 2 is the one where there's a question mark. Now it's the eligibility question, which is going to be, I think is going to be a hotly debated one. But it's a simple answer to it. Just give everyone a redshirt year. That's the easiest answer you give. Is give them a COVID redshirt, where you just give everyone.
They did this already, right? They did this with spring sports for the past. This spring that just passed, they canceled every sport and they gave everybody a redshirt year. An eligibility year. The problem that arises is
scholarships.
Yeah, scholarships and it hurts incoming freshmen. But listen, my son's going to play is playing in D2. I know of other people who are playing other sports in D2. I think, and this is true, I think that you won't have kids that are seniors that are going to stay necessarily. Not too many kids are going to stay.
I think what you'll see
just for an extra year of playing, because most of these kids in D2 are not going to the pro level.
I think what you'll see on this matter is I'm going to agree with you, but I think you'll see some guys who are going for, let's say, a doctorate or a master's may end up taking it. And I'll throw this out there. Don't be shocked if some of these top D2 players maybe transfer up to an FCS school.
That could happen.
Or
that's a good point.
There are some guys who may even try to go FBS. There are some decent enough FCS players who could maybe make an FBS.
That happens all the time. That happens all the time.
I mean by D2 players that could definitely make an FBS roster. Then they could possibly be an impact player on one of these lower level FBS teams. I'm not talking like Ohio State here. I'm talking more like a Coastal Carolina.
Let me give you a name. There's a guy, Mike Newton. He's the coach of Clarion right now. He's the offensive coordinator. Played 1 or 2 years at a D2 school in South Carolina. Transferred to Jim Spurrier in South Carolina. And played in the SEC.
It's not impossible.
It happens. That's just the name that I know. It happens. It happens a lot where they could even go high FBS. You don't know. That could happen.
And I will put it this way. There are a couple players who I'd watch because there are actually some guys who I know are NFL draft picks, probably going to be draft picks this year, who I'd be looking at. And even at the D3 level? At D2 and 3 level. There's 2 D3 guys who actually might be able to pull off the D3 to D1 transfer. And maybe – because there are a couple guys who I think could get drafted. There's probably about 50 in the country that are on that short list of the D2, D3 short list every year that comes out. That goes to scouts. And basically, it's just here we think the 50 best players in D2 and D3. And most of those guys do get signed. So it's a possibility that you're going to see guys that have that potential to get drafted.
Is this every sport? Is this including wrestling?
And wrestling is a winter sport. Wrestling and basketball.
So it's only full sports right now.
Yes.
That they're suspending. So all fall sports, they're suspending the national championship.
Yes.
Wrestling and basketball are still up in the air.
Wrestling and basketball are still TBD. It's up to the schools and the conferences. A lot of conferences will decide. Like I've heard, put it this way, I hear rumors every day of a new start date being thrown around. I've heard first it was going to be January 2nd. Now it's going to possibly be middle January, maybe even a season. There have been talks the season may go to the end of April this year, which is interesting. They're talking about trying to play a full 25-game schedule nationally.
Here's what's going to happen. And I've said this before. It's all going to become clear on November 4th. That's when everything's going to become clear.
Actually, I'm going to say this.
After the election, everything's going to become clear.
I'm going to add to that.
Go ahead.
I think we'll know in a month. Because I've been hearing that. Here's what I've been hearing.
Right.
I think we'll know in a month because it's going to be very hard to get programs ready to go at some of these Ivy League schools in November 4th and being told you're going to be playing November 28th.
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about as far as January 1st. As
it may be earlier.
I've
heard D1 may attempt. I've heard D1 and 2 are planning on having a regular. I've heard some D1s.
Well, listen, they are in football, so yeah, why not? They are in
basketball. But in basketball, it's interesting because there's way more schools that are smaller schools that have a lot more to lose here without a season. And in D2, there are a lot of schools that may be more willing to play with a smaller basketball roster, to try out basketball with a smaller roster than football with a larger, possibly up to 75 to 100 person personnel coming with you. So I could see some schools that are more basketball centric. Like I could throw names out there. Let
me ask you something before we get into all that. Do you think it's going to be like football, though, where every conference basically, every league basically makes their own decision? And then,
I don't know
because that's what football is doing.
Too early to call. I think we'll know in a month. Like I said, I think we'll know by October. I think we'll know within a month to the October area. I'd say within a month, that would be about 7 weeks, I'd give it. I will know in 7 weeks where the tea leaves are blowing. I think the biggest thing that's going to play into this is going to be if colleges can stay open.
Have they announced yet, not to cut you off, when the NBA draft is going to be?
The NBA draft, TBD. It's still because they're throwing around a date because they're trying to right now work out the offseason. Allegedly, the NBA wants to start right before Christmas. They want to have the draft. I've heard like the day before, like the 2 days before free agency, they want to have the draft. That's what I've been told.
When's free agency? They don't even know that, right?
They're waiting until after the finals. Once they set the schedule for the playoffs, because here's the thing. There could be a play-in tournament in the Western Conference, which could hold things up a week. So it's going to be within a week range.
What if teams finish with the same record?
It's, I think, within 3 games. It's within 3. If you finish within 3 games,
I thought they already did that. I thought that was the point of this whole.
I believe that for the 8th seed, if you finish within 3 games, they're having the teams that finish within 3 games at the end of this 8th.
It's kind of cool.
Because that was the compensation they made for the Wizards to come in and all these other teams to come in, because a lot of these teams had no shot in hell. Like, for example, the Pelicans in reality have no shot in hell with being told you're going to play.
That is the reason they made the rule. They want the Pelicans in the playoffs.
Yes. Or the Portland Trailblazers as well. That's another team that would benefit from this.
Yeah, but that's not what they want. Zion.
I know. They want Zion.
They want Zion in.
But it's a situation where the NBA draft just had the withdrawal deadline on Monday at 11:59 Monday night was the withdrawal deadline to either stay in the draft or lose eligibility. You're out, either in or out.
Right.
And there were some big names that decided to come out. One of them is Luka Garza from Iowa. He's probably going to be an All-American this year. I mean, the Big Ten looks like the best league in the country after Monday because they only lost one key player. And even then, Michigan State, who lost their top player, Tillman, is fine. So every other the SEC and the Big Ten were the big winners with star players coming back. Because Alabama and LSU both got 2 stars. Both got probably 2 first-team all-conference players in the preseason who are probably going to be
opted out?
That opted out of the draft. And so
opted out of the draft, okay.
It's going to be very interesting to see now with how things go with the rest of the way, now that everyone's in the draft that's in the draft.
Well, speaking of opting out, let's talk about let's start with D1. What do we think this D1 season is going to be in football? The FBS. I
think the ACC will be fine. I think the one problem's going to be is right now the Rutgers situation. I think the Rutgers situation may decide the future Division I football could be what happens with Rutgers over the next few weeks.
How many kids did they have positive?
It's now coaches too.
Yeah.
I've heard the numbers in 20 players and 20 plus players and 5 coaches. And I've heard from people
Here's the thing. And everyone panics when they hear this. We've seen it now in baseball. These guys are getting the virus. They're not getting sick, and they're back within a week. So I think we need to settle down.
I agree.
And see what happens 3 weeks from now, because everyone just reported or is just starting to report. Let's see once they're in their little bubble, and that's what they're going to do with these colleges.
I agree.
Because Jersey,
there's a big issue here we have to remember.
What's that?
Not every college has all of its student body on campus yet.
But they will have the players.
The players are already on campus.
Right.
The student body's coming in a couple of weeks. That's where I'm going to say to you, this is the issue, is going to be when you have students back on campus. 1 or 2 players could get it, and then then it spreads like wildfire on a team. It could spread like a wildfire. Because all of a sudden you could have a case like down, let's say I'm going to throw out a school like, not to poke anything here, Alabama has a lot of out-of-state people. One of the largest out-of-state schools is Alabama and Oregon, have the largest amount of people coming out of state to their school. Right. One of those schools has an outbreak. I could see the SEC being done with Alabama. I could see Alabama being like, this isn't safe. But at the same time,
are they going to quarantine their players, which is what they should do? Not like
I don't know what
their players in a bubble. That's what
I don't know what they're doing. Like nobody's even told us yet what anybody's doing in general. Like it's hard to get information.
I'll tell you what my son's school is doing. My son's school went completely online learning, right? But they're letting anyone that wants to come on campus could come on campus. So and work out. So what it's turned into is what I think it's going to turn into is it's just going to be all athletes on campus, and that's it. And stay, tested every day, distancing, this and that, and really adhering to the protocols. I would think that even if you have all the kids on campus, that these coaches at the big schools would have their kids away from everybody else. You know they can pull that off.
But if you hear what the Oregon players are saying, because right now the Pac-12 is an interesting situation.
Right.
Because the Pac-12 has always been one of the more progressive leagues when it comes to things. The Big Ten and Pac-12
because of where they are. Yeah. Seattle area, where they Oregon area, California.
That's where they are. I'm not going to even say that. It's not just because of where they are. It's they've always been more progressive in general when it comes to things. They've always been when it comes
because of where they are. All the protests of anything conservative is Cal Berkeley. I mean, it's Stanford. It's where they are.
I'm not even talking politics here. I'm just talking football in general.
Yeah, but when you talk about,
we have to talk politics. But I'm just talking football in general when I say this. The Pac-12's always been a little bit of progressive. Like for example, Mike Leach was able to hit it big at Washington State.
Yes.
So it's one of those types of leagues where guys can come out of the woodwork and create good programs in a year or two. What happened with Mike Leach?
Yeah, and Pete Carroll turned around USC. Yeah.
So it's an interesting situation where I think the Pac-12 may have to do something with their players to give them some concessions. I could see this happening nationally, where I think the schools will agree to testing every day, making sure that there's proper, because not every program's doing this, I've been told. I've talked to friends of mine who are playing.
Not every program's testing?
Not every program is committing to do testing every day once the season starts.
At big programs, they have to.
They're not committing to because of the money. They're arguing because of money. They're arguing because of money. They're arguing.
Power 5? The Power 5 schools have
to argue. Trust me. These schools are cheap. Every school's cheap. They don't want to spend the money on things. They're gonna say if nobody has it, they don't have to test. That's what they're gonna say. And the problem is with a lot of these schools is I've heard that some schools are, some schools aren't. I've heard some, like, here's the thing. I've heard that some schools aren't committing publicly or privately. I don't know what they're saying privately, but I haven't heard publicly from my friends. They've said to me, we haven't heard publicly that they're going to be testing during the season. Right. I would ask him. One guy I would ask would be Jeremy Ruckert, because he's right now at Ohio State. I'd love to hear what they're doing there, because and Jack, I'll probably talk to Jack Cohn, somebody close to Cohn in a few days, to see what they're doing at Wisconsin. But
I can find out. I can see if I can find out at Virginia.
And Virginia, too. I would love to hear what they're doing down there.
Sue's at Virginia right now.
I would love to hear, but I've heard from people that I talk to that it's iffy because they don't even know yet. Because they think they think that once everyone's fine, they're going to just test if there's symptoms. It's the whole baseball thing right now. It's people don't know. There's a lot of information out there. It matters by the school. It really matters by the school right now.
Well, you say that, but if it turns around that, and Rutgers is going through it right now, and I think that helps. I think this actually helps having a little bit of a crisis in the beginning where you'll have the Big Ten turn around and say, I can't imagine any school in the Big Ten being too cheap to test, but let's say one of them is. Let's say Iowa.
Iowa, I hate to say it. Iowa would be a good example.
Let's say Iowa, yeah. Let's say Iowa is the one that doesn't want to test. The Big Ten as a whole is going to get together and say, if you can't afford it, we'll throw in, because they cancel the season if they don't. And that's not going to happen. And I think the Pac-12, you might be right, because they do have some cheap schools in there and some state
Washington State's notorious.
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
Notoriously cheap.
Right. So listen, they might just say, Washington State, you're out, and we'll just play a conference with games without you. So, but I think the big programs are going to figure it out, a way to test.
I think the Pac-12 will play, because here's what I think will happen. I think they'll end up agreeing after the fact. I think you'll see players opting out. I think when enough players opt out, I think when you hear half of Oregon opts out, or Washington State loses a quarter of its team after 2 weeks, with players opting out, which already started to happen at some of these schools.
Here's the problem they're going to have, though. Baseball, football, there's an unlimited amount of players they can get, right?
College, you can't.
Not in college. So if you have 40 kids get it on a team, you're done. You're done. So that's something. And forget about it. I want to stay on football, but basketball, forget about it. That's 9 kids get it, you're dead. But let's stay on football.
Not even 9. You could lose 3 kids in basketball. Your team could be done.
Yeah. It's
one of those situations.
Yeah, because you have to be. I guess they can walk on, but you also have to be No, I get. If
You also
don't
have
get
limits. You also have limits on how many you can take. Schools have limits on how many they can take as walk-ons. Even then, there's rules on how many you can have. I mean,
I think that there'll be exemptions this year with that.
but here's the thing, though: there are rules like how many practices you have to have, how many this.
Right.
There's a whole lot.
It'll be
of
like
rules.
that. You're a little young to see the movie Necessary Roughness,
I've heard of it.
where they lost the whole team and everyone was a walk-on. They had like the college professor come in. Yeah, that was Sinbad. But I listen. It's gonna be interesting.
But
already we have seen this past week numbers come way down on positive tests, way down as far as statewide.
I've not been watching the news lately. I'm going to be honest. I've been keeping my head out of the news. So
yeah, they're coming way down. New York is like clear, and we're still like, not allowed to do anything. But New York hasn't had I heard New York City hasn't had a death in like 3-4 days, not one. We're clear, New York. Other states went up a little. Jersey's getting killed because of the Jersey Shore.
yeah,
Right? That's why they're getting killed. All the people from Philly and New York are going down to the Jersey Shore, getting it, and then staying in the houses because they don't care. But we have to remember, positive tests does not mean sickness.
Yeah, I look at hospitalizations. That's what I look at.
Right, and it's down. It's down. It went up in a couple states, but not bad. I think that come October, late September, October, it's going to be a different story.
I think we'll be discussing. I'll tell you this.
Go ahead.
I think we're going to be discussing Division I and II athletics. If the colleges can stay open, there'll be a normal basketball season. I think with some adjustments. One thing I've been hearing is there's going to be no fans at least till March. I've been told that there'll be no fans at neutral site games. Is one thing I've been told. If it's a neutral site game, there'll be no fans.
Right.
On campus, it'll be up to the school. The schools will have to agree. From what I've heard, if they want to have, if it's
So
on campus,
Ohio State announced this week. I have the connection with Lindenhurst and Ruckert. I don't know Jeremy Ruckert. I never met him. I met his brother, his father, but I don't know him. But just from following Facebook and this and that, Ohio State has limited it to 20,000 people in the stands with social distancing. So whoever you come with, you can sit next to, and then you have to distance around. They're gonna, however they're gonna do it. But they're allowing 20,000 fans,
which is doable. They have an 80,000 seat stadium plus.
Yeah,
which is very doable.
But hold on, that's seats. What about the bathroom? What about concessions?
Because I don't think people realize a lot of those seats at those stadiums are bench, so you can reasonably fit. So you can reasonably fit. This is for people that don't realize this. This isn't like an NFL stadium.
I went to Rutgers and saw a Rutgers Ohio State game. Great experience.
Was that sarcasm?
No.
Because I've never heard of good experiences going to Rutgers games. I've never heard.
Well, they played Ohio State. So,
yeah, true.
Yeah, it was it wasn't a great game. They got blown out, but it was actually Dwayne Haskins' first game that he played in the game. But regardless, it's the only FBS game I've ever been to, like Power 5 game I've ever been to, and it's great. But it's all benches. You're right. It's there's a couple seats, but it's all benches for the most part.
And a big thing to look at here is going to be with basketball. Because this is the big thing I'm going to say to people, is if schools are going to decide to have fans, let's say Duke plays somebody, they might only have 5,000 fans, maybe 3,000. Because I've been told, because Duke has got about a 12,000 seat arena.
Cameron Arena is 12,000 seats.
I think Cameron's up there. Cameron's, I think, 12, maybe even larger. It might even be larger.
I think it's really small, Cameron. Look that up. I think it's really small.
Cameron Indoor?
Yeah.
Just under 10.
Yeah, 9.
It's 9-2.
Yeah.
Just under 10, basically.
So they're not going to let in more than 2?
They might have. It could also just be maybe fans. You'd have the pep band. You have parents, some students, the pep band, the spirit teams. That might be it. And that might.
I think the indoor places are a lot harder to do. But like we said, who knows where we're going to be? There could be a vaccine. And there probably will be a vaccine by the time basketball rolls around.
And I've been hearing, I'll tell you this, though. I've been hearing the start date could end up being, the new date being thrown around is for at least Division III is January 15th. And the belief is that Division 1 and 2 could start mid-December or December 1st, mattering by when colleges end. Because if colleges have kids off campus, they may start playing games off campus at first. With kids off campus, they might play a couple teams. Let's say they might have a full schedule just starting later, which I think will happen. I think we'll be discussing college basketball come November. It's just the question of when. I think it's at mid-November. Is it November 1st? Because traditionally, NCAA start date for all three levels is November 1st. So we'll see this year.
Right. Hold on, I'm just playing with something. Keep going.
So another big thing I want to look at here is and speaking of the draft, is two pretty decent, I've heard, two guys who I've heard are pretty decent prospects opted out.
Yeah, go ahead, because I wanted to get to that. Yeah, I wanted to get to that. This is the
big thing I'm going to mention here is, do you think this is going to be a trend? Because these are not two big names here. These are guys who probably at best could be maybe low first to maybe probably a third to fourth round pick range, but maybe low first with an oddball situation of like a GM really likes the guy type situation. Or they had a really good year, they may be a first rounder.
Well, who are the two guys you're going to say? And then we talked about this before. The top guys might be better off opting out. Like
I've been saying this all year. Trevor
Lawrence, Fields. Fields wouldn't be eligible.
Fields already said he's not. Even though he would be eligible. He's already said he's not.
Wasn't he was not a freshman last year?
No. Same age as me.
Same age as Lawrence. That's right. They came out together.
Which is me. I'm the same age as Trevor Lawrence. I'm actually older than Trevor Lawrence, which is scary. But
so am I.
And it's scary to say he's the same age as me. I'm older. But I've been saying this for a while that Trevor Lawrence should opt out, no matter what he should have.
Right.
Just in general, it would be more. I think it would be much better for him because he's the type of guy that would be better off just not taking the hits for a year and just working on the fundamentals and getting ready to start in the NFL. I think
listen, just to avoid injury, and you have a built-in excuse. It's not like anyone will really fault you. Look what Bosa did his last year. Like he had to fake an injury the whole year.
Yeah,
he had to basically fake an injury the whole year and still went.
Yep.
So I mean,
if I'm Trevor Lawrence, I would opt out. At this point, if I'm him, I realize, I could just sit back, watch the NFL season and work. And you know what?
You have the national championship already.
Not even that. He already is the undisputed. He's like Andrew Luck. He already was the number one guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's fine. That's well and good. But a lot of times these guys want to accomplish goals. The bucket list. They want the Heisman. You want the
Has he won a Heisman?
He has not. They want the national championship.
That might be the only thing he wants.
That might be, but I don't see there being a Heisman. There might be a Heisman this year.
No, there'll be a Heisman if the big time schools play.
Yeah,
it'll be. Trust me when I say this. I would not want to be a Heisman voter because that could be the most rigged election ever in the history of elections. Because you might see people voting along conference lines, like alumni voting for conference guys, because it's gonna be tough to judge a guy out of the Big 12 who could end up putting up. Because imagine Spencer Rattler, who could be the quarterback for Oklahoma this year.
Right.
Imagine as a freshman, he puts up 3,000 yards or more, which could happen in the Big 12. He could put up 250 a game for 8 games.
Yeah, but Oklahoma's had they've had the Heisman, the past couple of years. They're the one with the Heisman, but I don't think that this is going to be any different as far as conference or non-conference because we mostly judge them on what they do in conference anyway, and then they go into the playoff.
But here's the big thing that's going to be the issue. It's going to be how do you judge the strength of teams are playing? Because usually you have non-conference games where, you could see somebody play this team and be like, oh, what's his name's played against this team played against what's his name that played
JP,
against
most of the non-conference games, there's probably 3 or 4 non-conference games every year that are actually competitive teams. most of them are going against cupcakes anyway, and that doesn't factor in. You're judged really on your conference schedule and how you do. I don't think that's going to matter at all. I don't think that's going to hurt the playoffs. I don't think that's going to hurt anything.
I don't think the playoffs. I don't think it matters with the playoffs, but I'm thinking more of the Heisman. There could end up being a pretty good debate on, let's say, Trevor Lawrence, Fields, and let's say somebody from the Big 12.
You're only talking about 2 games, though. You're only talking about 2 games.
But it would be interesting because let's say one of those games against one of those teams, one of those guys had a bad game, because that's how it could play into this. One guy has a great game against this team.
You think about it the opposite way, though. Those games aren't going to happen.
True.
Right? So there will be no negative. You're only going to go on the positive. Yes, you're right. If Lawrence played, Jacksonville State and lost, it would kill his chances. But we can't even talk about that because he's only playing his conference. So it's not going to be But
what would be appealing to see this year? I think what could decide for Trevor Lawrence if he wins it? Playing Notre Dame. I want to see how he does against Notre Dame, because I think Notre Dame could come out and they're going to be playing for an ACC title. I think they have a shot at winning. I think they actually do have a shot at winning it.
They were always a contender. You always have to put them as a contender for everything.
ACC is so weak. It's not an insult. It's no insult to Notre Dame when I say this. The ACC is so weak that they're going to come. That Clemson's going to have to go into South Bend, try to win, knowing that if they win,
are they going into South Bend or is it in Clemson?
That was on the schedule beforehand.
Well, here's the thing. That's what I was just about to say. People are making a big deal about this Notre Dame and the ACC. They're in the ACC already. They're in the ACC in every sport except for football, and they already play 5 games against.
It's a quasi. It's according to the NCAA. I'm going to make a little joke here. They are a quasi ACC team in football.
Well, listen, that happens all the time, though. You have teams like that are in the FCS that are in certain conferences in football and other conferences in basketball. So they're in, I believe, every sport except for football.
They're independent in football because of the NBC money, and when that runs dry in a few years,
that's never going to run dry.
NBC wanted to cut it off before the last contract. Remember when that Notre Dame had that surge?
Yeah,
that was when the last TV contract was up, and it was perfect timing.
Listen, whatever. They play right now. They changed, like 3 or 4 years ago, they changed to where they play 5 ACC games anyway. So it's like they're in the ACC anyway. This wasn't a big jump. This wasn't a big deal. Like you said, they were on the schedule for Clemson anyway.
But now they got to play Clemson twice to win. Now Clemson knows that if they win and it's a close game, they got Notre Dame again in the final. If Notre Dame can get to the conference.
I wouldn't count out Georgia's in that conference.
No, Georgia's not. SEC. Georgia's in the SEC.
SEC. I'm sorry. Florida State.
Florida State's down. Miami's down. I mean, that's the thing. All those teams are down right now. So this is the year where it could end up being Notre Dame, Clemson.
You might be right. Yeah, they got.
And everyone's been saying this. This is the year where if Notre Dame could come out of the ACC and just run away with things other than Clemson. It would just be them and Clemson running.
Let me ask you something, though.
Like a charging ball.
I think, this is my opinion, I think that Notre Dame has been the past couple of years, in the top 10, in the national championship, conversation. But I don't know if they would be if they were to play, I can't even say that because for so many years they played the toughest schedule in the country. They played Michigan State. They played Michigan State. They played Michigan.
But here's the thing.
I can't compare. Here's my point. I can't compare Clemson to Notre Dame. I just don't think Notre Dame could stick with them. Not if everyone comes back. If everyone plays,
I think they can play with them. I think they can keep it close. I'm not saying they're going to win. I think they can.
I can't see them beating them twice. They can't beat them twice. Unless something major.
I don't think Notre Dame beats them twice. Put it this way. I don't think either one of them is going to win twice. If I'm Clemson, I am scared of playing them a second time.
Syracuse has been pretty good too.
Syracuse, here's their problem. And this is a big problem for them. This year actually is going to help them because they need to play a tough schedule. The problem is they get caught up early thinking they're going to be good. Every time Syracuse is good, They get one or two cream puffs early, and then they lose to their first tough game.
Oh,
They
hold on.
lose.
This just in. We have a sighting. We have a Carl sighting.
Yes.
There he is.
Let's
Now, hold on.
let's see how long this lasts.
Listen, you're here. That's it. All right, we're gonna wrap up the NCAA. We've been talking about it for 35 minutes now. Carl, how you doing? First of all,
I'm just doing great, just like always.
Your connection is great right now.
Right now,
Yeah, your connection is great. You look great. House behind you looks great. This is Carl Graham. Welcome to the show. Anyone who's watching this on the replay, and this is going to be on YouTube. It's live. Hey, Carl, did you check it out on YouTube?
no,
I sent you the link.
I can't really get on. You're asking too much right now.
Oh boy. I got an old guy and a young guy, and it is a struggle dealing with this. But JP, we'll wrap that up. That was a great talk about the NCAA. Carl, let's talk about, where do you want to go? You want to start with the basketball? Or you want to go with the baseball? Let's start with the basketball. Basketball started this week, and I'll be honest with you. So far, the three major sports came back, and while I'm watching the game, unless I think about it, I do not notice a difference. I don't.
I think the NBA is the best right now of the three.
Hockey is absolutely the best.
I think hockey's got it right. I think hockey may have gotten it right, but I think the NBA gives you the best environment from what I've with the virtual fans.
Like I said, it's your preference on which is your favorite sport, maybe, or what you're into. I'm more of a hockey guy. I was watching hockey.
I liked it.
Yeah.
But I viewed the NBA with having the virtual fans around, so you get to see the virtual fans.
I hate that, but yeah.
I love that.
I
find it funny. I find it funny. See some
I saw a tweet that said, "How did the Pelicans have empty seats with virtual fans?" Where they had like half of them were empty. But Carl, what do you think about before we lose you? What do you think about the NBA? How they've done it?
Well, first I want to say is I think NBA to start with, out of all the sports, was the best. How they did everything with the coronavirus, how they scheduled everything. I think they did it perfect. Football and other sports should be following this, and maybe we could have.
Well, I said it before. You weren't here, but I think the best is going to be hockey because they're in another country with no major outbreak, and they're in two bubbles where they're gonna have the chance to be the best one.
Right, but we're talking about we're over here, and all these people are getting tested positive or whatever you want to believe in.
Right,
testing positive, and it's in America now. Now we're in with football and baseball. Forget it. Baseball, who knows what's going on with baseball? But with the basketball, if they could follow the way basketball did it, I think everything's going to be all right with all sports.
Well, what do you think about the game stuff?
The game stuff, it hasn't changed.
It's great, right?
It's great. All the basketball is good. It hasn't changed. The drama is there. It's actually better. We saw the other night. We saw a great game with Houston. I mean, everything seems the same. It's back. NBA is back, and it seems the same, and it's great.
And JP, my big worry was when these sports came back with no fans, that it was going to seem like there was no fans. You were going to hear all the coaches. But what they've done, I don't know why I didn't think this was going to happen. They've pumped in so much crowd noise, which is honestly, I forget. You get this home run hit, and you hear the crowd noise. Hockey, you get a goal, the crowd noise, you forget that they're not there, and you just get into it. I think it's been great.
You know what I think of right now when I was watching the NBA? I think it was Keith Olbermann was talking about Ken Burns' baseball when they're talking about what happened the day after the night the Mets were going to play the first game in New York.
Against Atlanta, yeah.
And Keith Olbermann was talking to a guy in the street. And the guy it was a cop who just lost a lot of his friends. He said, I lost a lot of my friends, but at 7:00, I could forget about that.
Yeah.
And
We've said that from the beginning. And that's what baseball got wrong. We needed sports to distract us. We needed it to distract us. Yes.
And I think with the NBA having the way it is, it's like you don't even realize. It's like Carl was saying. You don't even realize that it's like not normal. Like you can go escape thinking, oh, we're back to normal for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's
all
nice.
day long. All day long.
Listen, the Islanders started at 12 o'clock today. I was watching yesterday too.
Yeah.
I love it. They lost today. They're up 2-1 in the series. So, they were going to give up one game, of course. But here's the other thing, and NBA seeing this, and baseball seeing this, and hockey, is that everyone's healthy now.
Yeah.
And that's what helps the Islanders, because they were really struggling at the end of the season. They lost their best line, was basically out, and now they're all healthy. Now watch out. You're going to see teams that weren't great in the regular season that are now healthy, and we're going to get to your Yankees, which look unbeatable. They
lost today, though. They did lose.
But they had to play. They had to play our division.
That's why I'm saying it's like, don't get me excited.
Our ex-pitcher Wheeler shut them down, but we'll go with that later.
Let's stick with NBA.
With all the NBA problems that they had, and everybody was thinking about the problems they were going to get, and it's showing more in baseball.
Listen, I have a friend that lives in Pennsylvania that said there was not going to be any sports this year. That he was that pessimistic, Carl.
Yeah.
I
still am.
At one point.
You listen. This is the funniest thing because I will literally get every half hour a text from each of you with a doomsday scenario on how the sports world is going to end. And you just keep, both of you, bam, there's going to be no baseball anymore. There's going to be no football anymore. Both of you.
I don't think baseball is the
most pessimistic ever. And me, I'm more, I got to see it. That's how I am.
I'm still not confident baseball gets through August.
The part about it, he answers.
Yeah. That's what you love. I know. But see, Carl sits there and he's he just throws seeds out there that he knows is going to drive you crazy. And if it doesn't, it gets him so mad. If I say, yeah, that's good, it gets him so mad. Oh, you just think everything's going to be okay. Because Carl is the most pessimistic guy on earth. JP, you're there too. You're close.
I'm a pessimist, but here's the thing. I really don't think baseball gets through August. My gut is telling me that that's something that I just don't think they're getting through August. But back to this, remember.
Yeah, let's stay on the NBA. We'll get to baseball.
There's a big difference here.
Go ahead.
And this is why I'm saying this. There's a big difference. The NBA is going to probably get through its season, even though Lou Williams is now having a Bill Clinton situation where he might have to testify in front of Congress now.
Right.
Did anybody think that he walked into a strip club, got the wings, and walked out? I mean,
there are people that do. There's also a person I can tell you.
Only his wife. Or his girlfriend. That's the only one that would have believed that. Nobody believes that he didn't get a lap dance. I love this. A socially distant lap dance.
Yep.
What is that? Sounds like every time I've ever gone into a bar, I hooked up with so many women socially distanced in my mind. Come on. That's ridiculous. But yeah, I think the bubble helps. The bubble is everything. You could monitor them. You could keep them in there for sure. Now, remember, NBA and NHL are only basically doing playoffs. So they could have a bubble. It's such a short period of time. And half the teams are going to drop out as it goes on, where baseball's doing a season. It might be almost the same in length of time, but baseball is doing it where every single player is going to play for 60 games. That's not the case in NBA or the NHL. You're going to have teams drop out and leave the bubble, and it's going to get better, not worse.
But with the NBA, though, we have to discuss this.
Yeah.
With what happens after the season, where do you decide if you're the NBA?
Yeah.
What do you do in December? They got to start talking sooner than later.
I have always said this. Before any of this, I've said the NBA season starts on Christmas Day. It just does. When they start in November, October sometimes, there's no juice for it. Nobody cares. Nobody watches it. But on Christmas Day, they do what the NFL does on Thanksgiving. They have nonstop games. And that's really when the season starts and everyone starts watching. Because at that point, football's over, except for the playoffs. And you get into the NBA season. They should start Christmas Day every year. Every year.
I mean, what do you do with the teams? Do you decide are they going to have a bubble, another bubble situation where maybe they have –
This is all going to be fixed by then.
Because I'm hoping, but you got to be thinking at the back of the NBA. It's going to be now, what do you do to make sure you can play when the season's going to start up again? And the NHL, too, has to discuss this. Do you tell your players do not leave Canada? If you're the NHL when this is over, do you tell
the NHL is much harder situation because you're dealing with two countries.
Not just two countries. You got more players international in the NHL.
Yeah. No, forget about that. Baseball has that even more. They all have that. I'm talking about where you play. Is two countries is predominant in this, and you're going back and forth. Forget about where the players come from. They could come here and stay, the whole season. But as far as Canada Canada didn't agree with it with baseball. They shut it down, so they're not afraid to say no. Is the NHL going to be able to have a season? But I think by then it'll be a different world. I think U.S. will be way down in cases, and they're probably.
We were saying, but can I clarify this? So we were saying this though in like March and April.
No, we were saying we didn't know. We didn't know it probably, but right now they have like 4 vaccines that are in the final stage. You have cases coming down now. It's going to be a different world, and
it's different. It's already different.
Maybe not in October, but in December, it's going to be way different.
It's already different, and you know what? I'm sure they're already looking forward to that with the NBA and everybody else. They're just trying to get through what they have to get through now, and they're going to get through it, and they'll worry about that later. But with the NBA,
we've seen seasons though, Carl, and I'm going to let you finish. But we've seen seasons. Baseball did it where they interrupted 2 seasons for a strike. So this virus could interrupt 2 seasons. It could. Yeah. It could push hockey and basketball into January. It could, but we don't know. Go ahead and finish your thought.
But with the basketball, I think the way they're doing it now, it don't surprise me they can do it at the start of the season again. To start it, I mean, they could run into it. It's not a big issue with NBA like it is with hockey, or is it with baseball and stuff and football? It's not NBA. NBA is not a big issue at all with this. So if it has to come down to it, NBA will stay in Florida, or they'll move somewhere else, and they'll just bubble for a couple of weeks or a month.
Oh, I don't think so. For the next season, I don't think so.
No,
you know what I think they could do?
What?
I'm not going to say it's going to sound crazy, but I could see them bubbling. I could see them possibly trying to set up a situation where you have maybe all the teams down in Disney, because there's enough hotel rooms you could buy them up.
Yeah, but that's not the problem. It's not logistics. It's not any of that. It was easy to convince the NBA players, in this pandemic, people need basketball. You have to finish the season. But to start a new season, to convince these guys to leave their families and stay away from them for that long, not going to happen. Not going to happen. James is already complaining. The top players are already complaining that they're in the bubble. Wow. I mean, really, right? With what everyone's going through. But they would rather, the NBA players are going to say, we would rather play another 50-game season starting in February than go to a bubble. And that's what I think, if anything's going to happen, I think that's going to happen.
You know what I could see can happen with the NBA as well? The NBA has been talking about shortening the length of the season permanently. I think
that loses money. I can't see that.
But here's what I could see happening. The NBA has talked about expanding the league.
They're following the other sports.
They may expand the league. They may end up adding 2 or 3, maybe 4 teams because of the money. Because right now there's a lot of people who want NBA franchises. I know Seattle is being in big-time discussions.
Well, Seattle's getting a hockey team, right?
Next year.
Yeah.
Next 2021.
They have a dumb name, too. I don't even know what the name is.
The Kraken. Release the Kraken.
That's stupid.
They need to have.
Yeah, but that's more money, and playoffs is more money, and season is more money. They always think of the most money they can make.
But you know how it really won't hurt how it hurts the NBA, how it will not hurt the NBA, is if they start taking away those weeknight games that are meaningless. And they could focus on having more games on the weekends, on Thursdays, on their prime slots, which are Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, on national TV.
Those games aren't meaningless.
They move the schedule around, getting rid of more meaningless games and having instead on national TV, let's say, instead of having the Knicks versus the Kings game, like a game that has no national interest.
No. But that's not what you. Right. You also have to remember the team is making money from the concessions from the people coming in, and that we still listen. We've seen that this year where the owners are saying that they're making. They say like 70%. Let's say they make 30% of their money from the gate and from concessions. Think of chopping games off. That's how you lose it. Why do you
they
think
might not chop as many games off as you think?
I don't think they'll chop any. Think of the NFL, how they make you buy the preseason games just because they want that money.
Because you know what they may do is they may go from 82 games down to 70, which is being discussed.
You don't think that's a lot?
Not as many as you think. That's not as bad. If they had 2 teams or 3 teams, they can make the money back and expand.
How you make – hold on. One thing's got nothing to do with the other. What if I could tell you that you keep 82 games and you get the expansion money? That's how they think.
That could happen.
That's how they think. It's not like one affects the other.
But the players have been saying they want a shorter season. They want the season shortened. The players have been saying it
in every sport. Players
say that in every sport until you tell them, then you're going to get less money.
Right.
And then they say no.
You want to be short 10 games? That's 20% of your paycheck. You know what they're going to say? Nope.
Yeah.
You know, that's a problem in baseball this year.
Look what just happened in baseball. Exactly.
True.
Look what just happened in baseball.
Money.
All about money.
Nothing about fans. Nothing about family. I mean, they love their family and everything, but it's not like, if you're not going to pay me, I'm not going to do anything. I don't care.
Sure.
And that's all it is. It's money. But and if they're going to eliminate 10 games and they say LeBron, you're only going to make $30 million, not $38 million, LeBron's going to say, no, then we'll play. I'll just be
right. You tell him he's going to make $37 million instead of 38, and they say no. Yeah.
But here's why I think could happen. I think the expansion may happen. I think you're going to see that. I think the NBA's biggest problem is going to be then, what do you do next year if you start? Do you play? Do you try to set the season back up to end in June again, or do you decide, you know what, we're going to start up, we're going to leave things in December permanently?
They're going to
start fresh.
They're going to go into the summer every year, I think, because Mark Cuban's been saying it. They were always worried about baseball, and while I still believe, and I know, baseball is still on top of basketball, but basketball can survive, no problem, competing with baseball. No problem. They could survive competing with baseball. And they could go into June, July, stop this. You know, they could have their finals in August every year and then start again in December. Absolutely.
I agree. And I think you definitely will see also expansion on top of that. Because I think the money is there right now in the NBA to add teams. Because you look at it, I think that's one thing that the NBA is going to do to help shortfall from this year and possibly the future that could come from, let's say, people not coming to games as much, maybe having less. I could see possibly 4 to 6 teams in the next 10 years coming in, because there's a lot of billionaires, not just American billionaires.
I don't think we're going to go above 32. I don't think that.
I think 36 it actually would work better for the NBA. 36. I've done it, the math wise. 36 would actually work out a lot better scheduling wise for the NBA. 6 teams in the division would work a lot better.
I think what they were talking about is a little bit delayed over everything because of what's going on. I think they just want to get through this year, and they're doing very well. Yeah. The NBA's doing very well. They're doing very well, and they just want to get through this year and make LeBron James a champion. Well, they'll at least try, and that's what they want to succeed in.
But you know what's interesting, though? This could be the year where I think everyone realizes in the NBA, everyone's talking about Toronto right now in their defense. Like, it's the thing with the NBA. I have to mention this. My biggest observation from the first week has been Toronto's defense might be able to rain on everyone's parade, and the Lakers could be in trouble in the first round because they've been looking spotty at best since some of these games. Even though they don't need to play.
They don't need to play. It's 3 games. I mean, come on.
They clinched the West. But they were struggling to clinch the West. It was like a struggle.
But you know that doesn't mean anything. That happens every year where these teams down the stretch, once they know they're in, they slow down a little. Most of these guys, and they're not doing it now because they kind of can't, take days off all the time because they're just uninterested in the regular season. This is watch. You know, hockey right now is in a playoff. Watch once NBA hits a playoff, then we could start judging. I'm not saying that It's not true. We'll see some teams that we thought were going to be good that are shaky, but I wouldn't judge any of it.
And it's interesting though. I think some teams are already playing in playoff form. The teams that are competing for those playoff spots.
Of course.
Well, yeah, because they have something to play for.
They're playing like those are some of the best games.
You're making a point though.
Yeah,
Right.
Teams with something to play for are going all out, and the teams that don't have anything to play for are letting off the gas.
But those have been some of the best games. Have been these mid-level teams playing against, let's say, like the Nuggets playing the Kings. That was a good game today.
Yeah, absolutely.
There has been some really good games being played right now.
But wait till next week or the week after when
next Thursday.
Next Thursday when it's playoffs. And then we'll see everybody playing hard.
And here's something interesting for the NBA. The NBA has kept the last day of the year. Every game on Thursday, it's TBD right now. So what I've heard they may do is they may put the games of most importance last in the evening. They've already said they're going to put all the top games, no matter what region in the country you are. They're going to put the two most important games.
Football does that.
TNT.
Yeah, they have flex games.
So it should be fun to watch Thursday. I'm looking forward to this week and next week too.
It's already fun to watch. I'm loving it. You know, I'm watching every single sport. We needed this. The country needed this. We needed this 3 months ago, but whatever. That's behind us. We have it. By the way, do you believe it's August already?
Yeah.
This year is just a blur. A blur. And we got a half hurricane yesterday that knocked every tree down in the country.
Broke my fence. It broke part of my fence.
Yeah. Everybody had.
And knocked over my grill. It knocked my grill off the back. It just ragdolled. No, it ragdolled.
I have to worry about cutting trees down.
I haven't seen my house yet, but I think it's in decent shape. I think, but I haven't seen it yet. Hockey. I know you two aren't huge hockey fans. I
was watching today, though. I was watching a little today.
Love watching the hockey. Everything.
Time, man. If you're watching all day today, and I got hands, and I don't watch.
Today I was just working. I was typing up the things. I mean, I was home today because I had to take my father was in the hospital doing he had a medical event. And he had a little surgery to get done. So I was at home. I had to pick him up. Yeah, he's fine. So I had to pick him up. That's why I was home all day watching stuff. So it was funny because watching things, realize like when you haven't watched sports, when you haven't watched a game at noon, I haven't realized what a game at noon feels like in a long time. You don't realize what a game. I've worked games at noon tip off. I work noon tip offs. You don't realize that wow, it's noon and there's a game playing. This is early.
Yeah, you get that at college football. You get that a lot. But the hockey, I thought, has been great. I love the way they did it. Rangers out in 3 games. Love that. Islanders up 2-1. Love that. It's been everything. It's been everything that the only thing we haven't had in hockey, which is just strange, is you haven't had overtime games, which is what makes playoff hockey. But they'll come. And
for me, I'll tell you how type of hockey fan I am. I'm the type of hockey fan that'll come in right at the end. I'm the type of guy that would be watching about now because this would be kind of right before the playoffs are starting.
That's how Carl is. Yeah.
I get in right about. I kind of get into hockey the last 4 weeks before the playoffs. I'll really start following the last month.
Are you a Ranger fan or Islander?
I'm a Ranger fan, so I'm usually following. How am I a Ranger fan? It's simple. When the Islanders left, I kind of was a little annoyed because I used to go when they left the Coliseum. When they left, I was into that. I kind of was.
For 2 years, you're a Long Island.
But here's the thing: when they left, and how bitter it was when they left, how bitter everything was. Because on Long Island, if you're on Long Island, it was very bitter divorce. It was a very bitter divorce, and a lot of Islander fans I know became Ranger fans then because we were just so annoyed because we wanted them to stay still and try to.
You made they moved to St. Louis.
No, but it was
no matter what.
But moving to Brooklyn,
they moved an extra 30 minutes away.
But it wasn't easy to get to. Not easy to drive to the Barclays Center. Not easy to take the train.
Well, now they're coming back. What are you going to do now?
So now
they're coming back.
The Raiders left. Raiders left and went to Vegas. It breaks your heart.
But that was different though. That was different because on Long Island, that was way different.
You just followed.
This was different because this was legal there was political battles.
Who cares?
Regarding it, it was it was a lot of issues. A lot of people were angry at Wang and how he handled it because a lot of people thought Wang should have put the money into the Coliseum. There are a lot of people that
they wouldn't let him. Hold on. Time out. JP, they wouldn't let him.
Yeah, not just the White House. There are people saying after the fact.
Time out. He tried to build a new arena.
Yeah, the White House.
And Nassau County voted him down. It wasn't him. Don't blame Lang.
They wanted to build the arena because originally they wanted to have them build an arena not at the Coliseum. There were talks about building one in Plainview at one point.
Where are you going to put it in Plainview?
There was a spot in Plainview they could have put it right off the LIE.
Anyway, the new arena is almost done. Almost done. I'm putting in my deposit for season tickets. It's going to have Long Island Railroad access. It's right on the. Oh, it's at Belmont. It's right next to Belmont.
No, take the train. This actually will be convenient to go to. Unlike the Barclays Center, I got to take 3 trains to get there.
No, you don't. Long Island Railroad.
No, I have to. I have to go to Jamaica. Yeah. And then transfer.
That's 2 trains. But I like your math. I like your math. No subway. I like your math, but let's move on. Let's
I thought I had to still take the subway. That's why I said 3.
No, we're at it goes right there. Okay. We're at the 1 hour. We got 1 hour left. Let's get into baseball. Both of you believe the doomsday, it's all over, it's done, even though baseball has continued to just go on and on and on. You have positive tests, nobody's seriously sick, nobody's seriously ill. You have games canceled that are going to be made up in doubleheaders. I don't see a way that this season gets canceled and be the one league that fails. That's the biggest thing. I don't think that the owners or the players are going to want to be the one league that just fails.
I think I don't think it matters what they want. I think it's going to come down to, did you set yourself up for failure? You got to have to look yourself in the mirror and be like, did you set yourself up for failure? Yes. Did you even try? I think that matters. I think that really they have to look themselves in the eye and say, did we try to make this work? Not really.
You think they're going to admit that and give up?
I think they're going to have to. I don't think they're going to admit it, but I think they're going to be forced to because the writing's on the wall. I think if another bad week, let's say 3 teams this time get it next time.
I think teams already got it. 3 teams already got
it. Like 3 teams in a day and another bad week where you got coaches and it's a mess where games are getting moved.
All right, Carl, hold on. Carl, go ahead.
This is it. In the beginning, yes, I did say I thought it was going to be done and over with. Okay, the first week, the first 3 days, Miami tested positive, and that was it. I was like, you know what? It's over. It took 3 days. After that, other teams tested positive. Other players tested positive.
St. Louis.
On their own, St. Louis, and everybody, all these other players are testing positive, and they're out and everything like that. If the Major League Baseball did not cancel after the first week because all these teams and Miami had a breakout and they're playing with high school kids right now, they're not canceling the season.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I think.
If they were going to cancel it, they would have canceled it last week. They would have said, you know what, it's over. There's a breakout. It's done. Now that they did this and they have all these bench players and they have all these free agents, it's free for all. They're going to play. Miami played today, and their free agents that they picked off the street played awesome. They won.
Yeah,
they might have a roster. They might have a winning roster.
Finally. That's the whole thing is they've been set up for this the whole time. Where they have had, reserve players, and they've also had, players they could just pull in. Because don't forget, there's no minor leagues right now, so they could pull in players, off the street. It's baseball, not like you have to, be in football shape or basketball shape. It's baseball. Come in after 3 or 4 days, you're good to hit. You're good to play. I just think that no matter what, almost no matter what, unless someone gets, and I said this from the beginning, a serious hospitalization or, God forbid, a death, that will change everything. But we're already past the shock. We remember why all sports were shut down when Gobert got it in the NBA. That was it. That was the day. Everything stopped. When Gobert had COVID, everyone stopped. We're past that. You have teams coming in, and the NFL's doing it right now where players are coming in testing positive. Okay. Sit out a week and then come back. Right. The shock is not there anymore. I don't think baseball's stopping. It's not. Baseball's not going to stop. Good or bad, they're not going to stop.
I think they're one bad week away. I think they're one at the point.
They had their bad week though, and don't
really more.
Listen.
37
one more bad week.
Players and coaches tested positive the first 7 days. They
had their bad week.
Then.
If they didn't cancel then,
that was it.
They're not going to cancel.
I think
so.
one more. I think if they have one more really bad week,
right.
I think then it's going to become. I think that's the only way they'll cancel now. Cancel now will be one really, really bad week.
Let's talk about your Yankees for a second.
Don't get me excited.
They'll cancel the season if the Yankees get it, because that's the only thing that's really driving for everyone to watch.
Right. Yankees are just, if anyone benefited from this, delayed start, it's the Yankees, because Stanton was hurt. Judge was hurt. They didn't know how many players they'd even have healthy. And the Yankees, the past couple seasons, have been on the verge of just being the best team in baseball, but haven't gotten there because they had so many injuries. Now they have a short season. Everyone's healthy, and they're just teeing off on the ball. And they're going to play weak teams. They're playing, a lot against the Orioles, a lot against, Toronto doesn't even have a home. They're playing a lot against them. They're playing. Wait till they play 6 against the Mets. Then I'm going to get into that in a second.
Jake,
even though they're winning
right now. Did you watch the game today? Did you listen to it?
No, I actually was watching.
They're playing right now. The Mets?
No,
I wasn't watching any. I didn't watch any baseball today.
No, they lost 9-3, I think, right?
The Yankees, they got beat up.
Well, they lost 11. They lost 11-7.
11-7. And they were like, well, this is the first game. Judge will not hit a home run, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
and
right. He put it over.
Judge was on – I looked it up. I think the last player to hit 6 home runs in 5 games was, I think, McGuire.
It was McGuire.
Was it?
I think it was McGuire the year he broke the record. He hit 6 in a number of days. So, no, actually, it may have been either – I think Sosa and McGuire both did it the same year.
It was McGuire.
I remember that.
And Sosa
Don Mattingly one time had 8 games in a row.
Yeah.
But 6 homers in 5 games.
That's awesome.
Averaging over 1 home run a game over a 5-game stretch.
But
Sosa did
hold on. You've had guys that hit 4 home runs in a game. So I don't know. I'm sure that Judge is just unbelievable.
Yeah. With the Yankees, though, I see with the Yankees is their weakness is pitching. And
it has been. It has been.
On their pitching.
I'm going to say
not the past couple of years though. They
pitching.
Their bullpen, but not their starting pitching. They've counted on their bullpen and power. The weakness of the Yankees is going to be the same weakness this year as it has been for the past 3-4 years. It's situational hitting in the playoffs against good pitching, because their pitchers step up in the playoffs. Tanaka has like a 5 ERA in the regular season, and then he comes into the playoffs and he lights out. They do pitch in the playoffs, but what they have not done, I'm not saying they can't this year, but we have to see. What they have not done is situational hit. It's home run or nothing in the playoffs, and that's what it's going to come down to. And remember, there's more layers of playoffs this year.
Right.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying don't get me excited, because I think this year is not going to be an easy year people think. But I'm going to say this observation. I think the pitching overall has been either your ace or your God help me. When I watch some of these guys, like I've been watching, they're either ace or God help me, because it's like brutal with some of the pitching last few games.
The first week, the pitching was way ahead of the hitting. Now it's come back.
Now it's more like the other way around, where I'm like, either the guy is an ace, he looks like he's going to be Cy Young out there, or the guy looks like he's going to be back in the minors tomorrow.
Well, you know why that seems like that? It's because it's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like if you go, and Carl and I do fantasy. Listen, last year in fantasy, I had Garrett Cole, and I'm telling you, for the first 2 months, he was terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. And
you signed Garrett Cole for November. You signed Garrett Cole for October. He's the type of guy you get for October.
Like, after May, he was like unhittable. After May, you got to remember, you can't look at this season like that, because every single player this year is just on a streak, up or down.
Right.
The pitcher could be terrible for 5 starts, and in a normal year, that's nothing. That's a quarter of a season. Then he makes it up, and vice versa. You could be lights out.
Are downfall right now. Most of them are downfall. You got a couple pitchers that
you're both
good.
Right.
No, but you got these aces that you're looking at them and they're not lasting 3 innings or anything like that. And we're not.
Scherzer got hurt. Got hurt.
Yeah, they're saying something with his back. And
nice.
It's a warming up period. They got a whole change of lifestyle, and it's a warm up period. You got to give them a couple weeks, but the Yankees bats are handling it very well, and they're keeping everything. And it's going to be unbelievable with that at the end of the year to see if they can last through the whole season with the playoffs. I mean, there's nothing wrong as long as they stay healthy. If Judge stays healthy and they stay healthy, I don't know if you could beat them.
Well, no, listen, I'm telling you, you have to see them in the playoffs. Okay, when they're in the playoffs and they're going against good pitching,
right?
You know, and you need situational hitting. That's when you have to watch.
You know the old saying, "Good pitching beats good hitting." And I think in this case with the World Series, I think it's going to be. I think really this year it's going to come down to who has the most stamina. It's going to be which team has the most stamina to last the pressure of 3 tough series, or possibly a series where, who knows, those 3 series could come down to being just who has it in the tank.
Well, remember something. The first series is going to be 3 out of 5, right?
Yeah.
I think anybody could beat anybody in 3 out of 5.
That's why those young teams and those teams that everybody was thinking on the bottom of the list, they have nothing to lose. So they're playing, and they're going to be pretty good. You're going to see an upset or two. You're going to see a couple teams in there like, wow, I didn't think they would make it this year because it's a short season, that they're just playing because there's a couple teams now that are on a hot streak. I was really surprised.
Yeah, we said last year Pittsburgh and Seattle were like a game out of first place at the All-Star break. That could easily happen. And don't forget, we've had a lot of games that have been postponed, and they got to make them up. You're going to make up. A lot of these games are going to be made up in 7-inning doubleheaders.
College? I could give you a little experience on 7-inning doubleheaders.
No, I know.
I'm going to tell you how I feel with the game. I think the game goes very smooth. I think a 7-inning game, you're going to see managers a little bit more willing to let the guy go out there and just let him do his job. Because in a 7-inning game, one thing I've noticed is you're going to see only time you're pulling a pitcher, because you don't want to pull the pitcher because you want to have him for the second game. Because what you'll do is you'll leave the pitcher in. If he gets himself into a jam, then you're going to pull him. The only time you pull him is in the jam. And then you pull him immediately because it's a 7-inning game. There's going to be a tight leash, but if you just can get quick outs, you could go a complete game. They'll let him throw a complete game. They won't worry about 120 pitches. They'll just let him go finish.
I don't think that, but I think that you'll see a lot of pitchers, going 6 innings. Right now a lot of these pitchers go 6 innings on 100 pitches. I don't think they're going to – there's no way they're going to overextend these pitchers,
right?
Especially in this short season. There's just too much on the line for that. But you will see players and pitchers able to go the 7 innings on 105, 106 pitches.
Yeah.
You see that now. So, yeah, I agree. The starting staffs on those pitchers, on those teams, are going to be really important. Really important.
I agree. Yeah. You're going to see a couple of those star pitchers, though, go full game, 7 innings. And it's going to count as a full game.
Because how they do the college level is
if they just got to pull a doubleheader, you got DeGrom pitching, you're going to see a complete game with him.
Oh, yeah. And he's lights out so far. He has looked lights out.
Usually what you do with the college level is you just throw out your ace for the first game, and then you throw one of your relievers out there for the second game and maybe let him go 3 or 4 innings, just more like the C. Because sometimes you do that with your reliever.
Yeah, but this isn't this.
But I think you could definitely see an opener in the second game. But I think you could definitely see an opener playing this second game.
Absolutely, I think so too. Because you don't want to, you're not carrying a 6. A lot of these teams don't have a 6-man rotation, and you're still trying to cram them into games. So you're absolutely right. You could see, and you're seeing it now. A lot of these games are bullpen games. The Braves did it. The Red Sox did it for 2 games against the Mets, where it was just open, an opener for 1-2 innings, and then it was all bullpen, which I hate. I can't stand.
I think the opener,
it's the open way.
The opener is it's a situation of where part of me feels like, as dumb as it sounded a couple months ago, maybe in a game like a 7-inning game, maybe you do use a guy like Scherzer as an opener for 4 innings in a 7-inning game.
We're not doing
that. But I'm just saying, I know, but it sounds, as dumb as that sounds, I would not be shocked to see a team like Washington doing that.
Okay.
Just throw him
Anyway.
throw him for 4 innings.
I do agree with you that the second game could be an opener. I don't think an opener will ever be a starting pitcher because it defeats the purpose of putting the opener. Because the reason you would put in an opener, and this is what maybe I didn't make this clear the first time when we said this. The reason you would put in an opener is to save your starting pitcher for the next day. So,
here's what I want to know with baseball.
Where Scherzer wouldn't have to pitch, the second end of the doubleheader on Saturday, he could get an extra day, pitch Sunday, and just give the game Saturday. And here's what you also have to remember: if you put an opener in front of Scherzer, your assumption didn't happen today, but that Scherzer's going to be able to go 7, and you won't need as many relief pitchers the next day.
Yeah, they played 7 innings today, correct? The Yankees. They played.
I think they played 7.
Is it a doubleheader today?
Yeah, they're playing. The Yankees were home team for one of them.
Okay.
It was a weird doubleheader. The Yankees are playing in Philly. They're the home team for one of them, and the Phillies are the home team for the other.
Because of the hurricane, they canceled it and they made a doubleheader and they scored 18 runs in 7 innings. That's amazing.
Yeah. But I've seen college games that we had. We had one game that I heard of that was, I think, like a 15-10 game in 7 innings.
Yeah, but that's college.
So it's not uncommon. You'll be surprised. 7-inning games.
So.
But you'll be surprised. 7-inning games will produce more runs. For some reason, those games still produce a lot of runs.
Well, Yankees are on now. What's the Yankees doing now?
How many times do you see, a 7-5 game in the second inning and that's the final score? I mean, that's got nothing to do with it. That doesn't have much to do with it.
A lot of offense and shitty pitching.
But the Mets have looked terrible so far.
Oh, interesting. Here we go.
And let's talk about.
Here's some baseball news. Speaking of the Mets, Scherzer leaves start after first inning.
I just said that.
I don't know. Yeah. I didn't hear that.
I'm watching the game. He hurt his back. Let's talk about a little bit juicier of a topic. On Sunday, right, Carl?
Yep. Sunday, no show.
Sunday, the game starts. I'm driving, listening to the game, and in the first inning, they read a statement from Brody Van Wagenen, the GM. Why he put a statement out, I don't know. Just made them look stupid. That we can't find Yoenis Cespedes. He didn't show up. He didn't show up for the game. We called him. He's not responding, and his hotel room is cleaned out.
You know what I was thinking? I called you thinking to myself, did he get sent to the witness protection program or something? I'm like, come on.
I thought he got attacked by another pig. I thought he got another wild boar. Listen, this is good. This is, the door just shut on Yoenis Cespedes. It happens. I remember so many. Listen, Jamal Adams closed the door once he started calling everyone in the organization racist. You'll look back and you'll remember why the guy's not with the team anymore. And Cespedes is a guy that came here and delivered the minute he walked through the door. That first year, the minute he walked through the door, he delivered, got them to a World Series, and basically never did anything after that.
No,
for this team, and they had to sign him. And I understand all that. I don't blame them at all, but I'm glad that if this season turns out to be anything, that he's gone. And I'm going to date myself and go back all the way back to 1986. The 86 Mets. What people don't realize, a lot of people don't realize, is that the Mets had one of the best home run hitters in baseball on that team. No. On that team, they had one of the best home run hitters, a former part of the Big Red Machine, a former 50 home run guy that was all about himself, and teammates couldn't stand him. His name was George Foster.
Oh, you're right about him.
And they cut him. They released him in the middle of the season, and he was not a part of the team. Didn't have anything to do with them winning. Talented as he was just too much of a headache. And even though Cespedes is the one that technically opted out, the Mets decided in the 2 weeks ago that we're not going to cater to this guy and we're not going to play him every day if he's not producing. And he wasn't. he's going to swing and hit a couple
I
home runs.
find it interesting though with Cespedes is now where does he go next year? It's like if
Well,
you're Cespedes,
wait. I didn't finish the whole thing. I'm getting long-winded, I know, but what happened was he didn't show up for the game. All right, let's go before that. His contract is set so much because he wrestled with a wild boar and broke both of his ankles or whatever, both of his feet, and was out. That violated his contract. So the Mets were in a situation where they could either void his contract or renegotiate it, and they renegotiated the contract where he didn't get $20 million this year. He got even if it was a full season, he was going to get a couple million and then incentive bonuses if he hits a certain amount of home runs, a certain amount of RBIs. So in his mind, he's got to play every day to get to that bonus, right? So he came into the season and they started sitting him, taking him out, replacing him, and he Cespedes being all about himself, which is fine in baseball because it's not as much of a team sport as you think it is. He's still up at the plate by himself. But about himself, he's worried he's not going to get his money. Goes in, complains to the GM, complains to the manager. The next day, he finds out he's not in the lineup. Because it's a Sunday. Because they don't care what he thinks. And he doesn't show up for the game and then says he opts out. He opted out, basically just said, I'm not going to get my bonus anyway. I'll just take my money and be healthy for next season. Comment on that, and then we'll talk about where he's going to go. Carl, you go first.
Well, you nailed it. Exactly what happened it wasn't about the COVID-19. It was about his money. When he came in with his bonuses and what he has to do with home runs and playing the outfield and starting the outfield quite a few games, he was told he wasn't going out there all the games. He was going to be benched. You're absolutely right. He took advantage of it. He said, if I'm not going to get my bonuses and I'm only going to make a certain amount of money, I'm going to opt out. And in his mind and his manager, he said, I'm out of here. The reason, and he had this, to me, I think he had this plan the whole time. This was a whole time thing. Once he found out he could opt out of his contract for the COVID-19, he said, let me go out there, hit a couple home runs, which he did, and he struck out a lot too. So he wasn't great, but he did strike out a lot. He hit a couple home runs to prove that he was healthy.
Well, he went up there. He looked when he was swinging like he was just swinging for the fences every time. He must have had some sort of home run clause where he was just swinging for the fences every single time.
So
and it was a little obvious.
When he did that, and he was running a little bit, which he looked like he was in slow motion anyway. He can't run, but he did it. And he showed that he was healthy enough. And then his agent or somebody said it's time to opt out. You can opt out. You're healthy enough and everything. Let's opt out because next year you got an American League team that knows you can still swing the bat that will give you a 3-year deal on what you want for a DH. So he said, you know what? I'm not going to get my bonuses. It's not worth playing. I'm out of here.
That segues us into what JP wanted to bring up. And JP, I'll give you this one. Honestly, I think that the DH is here to stay.
I think it's here to stay too.
Both leagues, it's here to stay, which means that his target audience or however you want to call it, is the whole league now. It's not just American.
But where's he going to go? And here's the thing: who's going to want him? Like, if I'm a team, I'm going to put it this way: if I'm a team, if I'm not going to be contending, do I want a guy who could be walking out?
It's not going to be a team that's not contending. Think of right now.
More like, for example. I have a team I was going to bring up. A team that could be borderline contending. Mattering by the year. The Pirates, the Reds, who by the year, who could be in it in August. And then do you want to spend money on a guy who, if you're contending, will help you, but if you're not, he will be a no-show. He'll be MIA by June?
Well, don't forget something. Remember one thing. This is his 4th team.
Right.
He was bouncing around before he got to the Mets.
He was with the A's. They traded him straight up for Lester.
Right.
Then he was with the Tigers. He was with the Red Sox. They were so competitive with him.
And then the Mets.
Then they dealt him to Detroit.
Yes.
And then he got dealt to the Mets. Right. And he was competitive. He was always in competitive.
He was always like that. In baseball, they don't care as long as you're hitting. If anyone thinks, and you're going to have the entire National League right now is not built to have a DH. They don't have those guys on the roster. You know,
The Reds are the only team in the NL. The Reds are the only team in the NL that has it.
No, the Mets. The Mets are
the Mets do too.
But they weren't built like that. They didn't build their team like that. You know what I mean? Right. Like going into next year, the Cardinals, forget it if he goes to Colorado. Like you have all these teams that think that they can contend, and put him as their DH. He's going to have.
Can I make a bold prediction where he lands?
A 3-year deal.
I'm going to make a bold prediction where he lands. I think he heads to San Diego. I think the Padres decide to get the piece that they're going to get him and another piece. They're going to spend another boatload of money. They're going to decide, you know what? It's either win or else. They're going to sign Cespedes to a 1-year deal,
right?
With $25 million type deal, a large deal to get him to San Diego for 1 year, and try to win it all.
He's not that old,
but the reason why the Padres would do it.
If I don't think he's not going to sign a 1-year deal.
But if they give him $25 million, I think that he would.
No way. He's going to sign
with a 1-year option.
You make like it's his only offer.
But I was saying, I think
what I'm saying is, I think another team is going to get more than that.
California.
Absolutely.
Oakland,
that was what I was going to say.
The Dodgers.
How about the Yankees?
I don't think we would want them. I think we have. I wouldn't. I would rather have the team we have because we have Clint Frazier who's probably take over.
If you think he's healthy, right? Because he's going to have another year. If he's healthy, he can still play the outfield too. We're putting him at DH because he just came off the surgeries. He could play the outfield.
But I think how he plays, right. I think he's much more suited to be a full-time DH. I think he's a type of, he reminds me of a little bit what he could be. David Ortiz and Edgar Martinez, the type of player DH where he could just be a game-changing bat that you don't want on the field, even though they could play the field.
Yeah, listen, here's the bottom line. And we just, all of us just rattled off, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams. He's going to have a landing spot. He's going to be fine.
I'm glad he's off the map.
I'm glad that it's not, another thing that's going to, go through the whole season. We're going to have to worry about this, which is only 3 weeks, but in 4 weeks. But I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad, good riddance. These guys.
Good riddance and bad rubbish. The old quote from
right.
But it's interesting though with the Mets, and I'm going to say this with the Mets. I think for all the hype the Mets had this year, I gotta say,
you think the Mets had hype?
I think the Mets were hyped up to possibly be a playoff contender at one point. Before the season, people were talking: could the Mets make the playoffs? Could the Mets make the wild card?
Could the
Mets win the division?
They had the 2-time Cy Young Award winner, and they had the Rookie of the Year. Of course, you're going to hear that. I don't think they were picked to win the division by anybody.
But I think with the Mets, I think you got to start thinking: is Brody Van Wagenen the right GM for the team? I think you got to start thinking a little bit.
He's absolutely not the right GM for the team.
I think you got to start I think you got to start in the front office. Have to start thinking changes with this year. I think this year was so much of a disaster.
I don't think anything's going to happen off of this year. Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised, but
because this year has been a disaster.
Yeah, but you got to factor in it's only 60 games, and he traded their top prospect for Cano and Diaz, who sucks. He signed Lowry, who, like I always say, has to show ID to get in the stadium. Brody has been pretty much a disaster. His good find, I think his only good find has been J.D. Davis. That's the only one I'm going to give him credit for. J.D. Davis has been an awesome find for him.
He's been a good player. I like J.D. Davis.
Helped out the ground.
But
got him signed.
It's just, I think with the Mets, I think if you're the Mets with how they team up for sale, I think they need to make I think the Mets need to make changes this year, this offseason, because I think the Mets are about to watch another year go down the drain after this year.
I think you just hit it on the head. They're going to stick with what they have until the sale. And then the new owner is going to decide. Because there's no incentive when you're selling the team. The team is what it is. The team is what it is. There's no incentive to say, let's bring in a guy for the Wilpots. Let's bring in a guy that's going to build a team for 4 years down the road. they're selling the team. They're not going to have the team for 4 years.
But I'm going to ask you this: if you're the Mets in the offseason, do you start hearing calls about dealing some guys? Like, do you take a call if they're told, oh, DeGrom?
No.
Do you take a call for Mats?
For who?
Do you take a call for Diaz?
Mats, I would trade.
Diaz, I would cut his ass.
Diaz. I take a bag of balls.
Here's one I'm actually going to ask you on. This is going to be an interesting one. Do you take a call on JD Davis? Do you take a call on JD Davis?
No, because he's not making any money. No.
To trade.
Look,
what if
the
team offers you a decent player for him?
Here's the thing with the Mets. The one thing the Mets have going for them is all their best players are so young that what are you doing by trading them? You have a base.
How old is Syndergaard going to be?
Syndergaard, 28, 28?
26.
Yeah. 28 maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's.
Yeah, I'm going to look up.
DeGrom is over 30. DeGrom is the one that's.
DeGrom's going to be 28 at the end of the month.
DeGrom.
No, not DeGrom. Syndergaard. That's my bad.
28.
He'll be 28 at the end of the month.
So I would. First of all, you don't trade DeGrom because Syndergaard because you're not going to get anything for him.
Right.
You know.
This is the best time that surgery happened. He's a free.
Here's one guy they can trade and get a lot for. Two guys they could trade and get a lot for. One is Seth Lugo. They could get a ton for Seth Lugo. This is a guy with the second best stuff on the team. He's
get a lot.
He's not John Smoltz, but he's of that type where he could close or he could start for you. They could get a lot for Seth Lugo. And they could get a decent amount for Dom Smith.
I was going to say Dom Smith because I'm like, if you're the Mets, do you deal? Do you start open up the phone lines and be like, deal?
Yeah.
The tables are open. Start dealing.
I couldn't believe they didn't trade him this year. But don't forget.
Lugo will be traded. Somebody's going to need that middle pitcher going into the playoffs.
You know what? The Yankees might try to get Lugo. Yankees might try to get him across town.
A team like that, a team like the Dodgers, the Yankees. Yeah. There's going to be, there's two things about this season, though. First of all, it's a short season, so everyone's still in it. But second of all, there's also 16 teams that make the playoffs. So when do you give up? When do you say enough's enough?
I'm going to say this.
The Mets are on. The Mets are definitely on course to say that early. They've also played 6 games against the Braves. They're going to play some bad teams. Let's see where they end up. But I wouldn't. Most of the Mets players are so young that they're cheap, and they. If you rebuild, they'll still be there.
Right.
Alonso was a rookie. You got this guy that they brought up, Jimenez, is amazing.
He's good.
Is amazing. Oh, I would trade Rosario. But
I'm going to say this.
Carl, you got a light where you are? You sound great. You got a light?
Somewhere around.
I'm going to say this. You have 26 days to make that decision if you give up. You have till the 31st. The trade deadline's the 31st.
That's a long time.
I think in 26 days, if you're the Mets and you realize, the odds of us making the playoffs aren't that great,
agreed.
I would deal Lugo.
Agreed.
I maybe would take calls on Rosario. Because you know what?
I would trade Rosario tomorrow.
Yeah.
I would take calls on him because I think if you're the Mets, I think you can.
Tomorrow. You could get so much for Rosario, and you have the kid. Nobody saw this kid coming up this year. Now he's getting a play because Cano got hurt, and he's really good. Really good.
And it's funny with the Mets. They got some guys who have been they got guys who for example, who is this guy type guys, and they got guys like Davis. They pull up guys like Davis. You're like, wow, and then they get guys who
you know what Davis is like? You're a Yankee fan. Davis is like Aaron Hicks, where they had a lot of talent.
You know who he reminds me? You know who
play a lot, failed a lot, but they had talent and were highly touted minor league players, and then just went to a different scene and just took off.
You know who Davis reminds me of? JD Drew.
No.
A little bit of JD. A little bit what happened to JD Drew, where he went to another team. When he went to another team, like JD Drew's situation, where he went to another team and flourished.
Yeah, but JD Drew came up as one of the top players. Did really well in St. Louis. then went to Philly and was, no.
Then he flourished.
No.
He flourished in another team.
No. J.D. Davis is not on that level.
What's the
as
score
far
on
as
that
prospect.
What's the score in that game, Mike?
I'll check that.
3-1, I think.
Mets?
It's a commercial right now. Yeah. 3-1.
Yeah, Mets are
3-1 in
winning.
the night. So just in time to blow it.
And the Red Sox have beaten Tampa tonight, that's interesting. And the Yankees-Phillies are tied. So we'll see if the Phillies get the sweep.
Right. But as far as the Mets, I look at their lineup right now. Let's just go around the infield. You have Alonso at first. Young, never going to trade him, right? Let's say Jimenez at second, not going to trade him. If someone wants Cano, take him. But Jimenez at second.
I would take Cano. If I was a team looking for a DH,
maybe.
You know what? If I was a team like San Diego, you get me Cano on the real cheap.
My point is, I'm going to give you 9 players right now where you could field the team and not trade them. So think Alonso at first, right? Jimenez at second, Rosario at short, McNeil at third, J.D. Davis in left, Nimmo in center, and Conforto in right. You're not trading your core. That's your core. You're not trading their core.
Right.
And there's no reason, because all those guys are also established players in the league. No reason to trade DeGrom. What the Mets are lacking this year is what they lacked for the past 4 years, and it's a bullpen. Yep. It's a bullpen. If they could, and I think this bullpen is going to come around because they've had some just bad luck. Diaz has to go, but
I think Familia is going to to come around.
He has been. Look at
this bullpen for a minute. Just look at this bullpen. Familia, Betances, Lugo, Diaz. But still,
the ones that you don't even know that are really good in there are Wilson and Drew are really good also.
Yes, you're right on that. Jared Hughes is an interesting character. He could be good at times.
He just
Diaz
came
needs
in.
to go back. Diaz needs to go back to Seattle.
Strickland. Yeah, Diaz needs to go back to. I don't even know where he's from.
He needs to go to Seattle.
Diaz is from Seattle.
That's not where he's from.
It's
definitely not where he's from.
But he needs to go back to Seattle where they only win 10 games and he saves all 10 games. And he makes a name for himself. He needs to get out of there.
We went through this with K-Rod, where a guy saves 50-plus games one season, and we think he's the best in the world.
That Angel team was a good team. Remember, that Angel team was a good team.
Well, you don't win 50 games. You don't save 50 games on a bad team.
Like that team, wasn't that Angel, if I'm correct, wasn't that Angel team like a game from the World Series?
Yeah.
No, but they made the playoffs. But still, that Seattle team was good, too. You don't save 55, 57 games without being a good team.
Right. Got that kid.
But I remember, with K-Rod, Eric Gagne, that's another close. You talk about closers saving an exuberant amount of games. Eric Gagne, too. How he fell off after that. It feels like in baseball, if you save over 50 games, there's like the cliff and you just jump off it for closers.
Well, yeah, you have that, but they get one injury and they're done. A lot of these guys started as starters, and then they have 2 pitches, and once one of them goes away, Familia, 2015 was lights out.
Familia was
until the World Series. Familia is the reason they lost the World Series.
Yeah,
the Mets were ahead in every single game in the 8th inning. Every single game they were ahead in the 8th inning in the World Series, and they lost in 5 games. I think we lost Carl.
Yeah. But I'm going to say this to you as...
I'm here.
Oh, okay. You're doing fine, Carl. You don't have to go nowhere unless you want to.
Hey, I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
This is with everything.
Look at Miami's in first place at 4-1.
Yeah. Who leads the league in on-base percentage? What team?
Miami?
No, the Mets. And who
listen to me.
Who leads the league? Yeah, on leaving runners on base.
Oh,
the Mets.
Carl, I'm watching every inning of every game, and they are constantly second and third with 1 out, and they don't score a run.
They lead the league. Constantly. So again, We get on base, we can't score, and our bullpen been blowing it for us again.
But they've had at least 3 games where the bullpen just they had the one game they were up 6 runs against Atlanta. They blew it. They had the one game against the Red Sox. The Red Sox, they blew it. They had the second game of the season where Diaz has 2 strikes, 2 outs in the 9th, gives up the home run, and they blow it. It's the story every year. Every year. It's the same story. The bullpen, the bullpen, the bullpen.
Yeah. Lucky Miami took a week off and 2 to lead the league now, right? 4-1
Right.
they are.
All right, let's get into let's switch over to football. We'll end with football. Okay.
Good. Can I just say this though? Good Lord, with some of these teams, how they're going to look. Just good Lord.
What, football or baseball?
For the NFL, I've got a feeling that some of these teams are going to be interesting to watch.
No, but
New England, hint, hint.
Here's the thing about football, okay? And everyone is really jumping on this whole opt-out thing. In football, there's a reason why every year 4 teams that made the playoffs the year before don't make it, and opposite, obviously. At least 4 teams. Because injuries are such a huge part of football. So what we think going into August is almost never, the same team in October. So what I love that football did is they had the opt-out. I think today was the deadline to opt out. So we're going to know week 1 what teams have what players. And if you just think about it like this, every player that opted out is like they're on the injured list for the year, which happens to teams all the time. Pittsburgh was killed by injuries. You have teams that get wiped out. The whole starting lineup gets wiped out by injuries, and you just go through the season. If we were going to go through an NFL season and see a Cespedes every week where a player just gets pissed and opts out, that's one thing. But that can't happen in the NFL. So far, the rules that they've set, yeah, it's crazy now. We're getting all the names. The reason it's crazy is because they set a deadline on when you have to decide.
Tomorrow, right?
I thought it was today.
No, it's Thursday.
It's tomorrow? Okay, so tomorrow. So come this weekend, we're going to know every team who they have before injury. And then it's not going to make a big deal. The Jets, going into now their season, have lost their 2 best defensive players. Jamal Adams leaving to Seattle, and then Mosley. But we're going to know that the coaches are going to know going into the season what they have. So I don't think it's going to affect it that much.
But you know what's going to be fun to watch? I'd love to see Belichick with his leg tied behind his arm, be tied behind his back, and try to coach the Patriots, the hobbling Patriots, to the playoffs.
Listen, this is a guy that lost his Hall of Fame quarterback for 4 games to begin the season and won the Super Bowl.
Right.
Anyone who thinks that Belichick can't bend and not break with anything is just they're fooling themselves.
But I just love to figure out.
This is a guy that goes into every single week with a different game plan.
Yeah,
he will figure out a way to win games. He will.
I just would love to see I just love to see what he does to make this work. I just want to see what he comes up with.
You're gonna see.
I don't want to see that.
But
all right, let's do what we did last week. Go ahead, Carl, and then we're gonna go through just like we did last week. We're gonna go through the NFC and we're gonna rank the quarterbacks.
Tomorrow, real quick, is the deadline, and the big topic is the big namers they're naming today, and who's gonna opt out. And I forget his name, but the Buffalo Bills cornerback, the main guy in the Buffalo Bills,
White, Tre'Davious White.
Yes. They said that he'll make his decision tomorrow, and
I hope he opts out. But
anyway, whoever opts out. But football starts tomorrow at 5 p.m. Because
that's the thing.
Actually, just
in a sport. Go ahead.
The cover, just to mention this quick, even though this actually is breaking news, the cover of the New York Post tomorrow is going to include UConn. On talking about UConn, it's a national news story now. New York Post is going to have it in the front cover tomorrow.
Yeah, UConn opted out of the season. They canceled it, right? They're an independent anyway. I think the fact that they're an independent really canceled themselves, since most of these conferences are playing,
I just wanted to mention that quick.
But yeah.
Because that's
as far as football goes, Carl, you're absolutely right. Tomorrow is really when everything starts because we're so used, like I said, we are so used to in football losing the best players for the entire season and just next man up. Yeah, it'll ruin some teams, and anyone who stays healthy, it helps them. But we're used to that mindset where we're not. I guarantee, come September, we're not going to say, "Oh, if this guy didn't opt out." If Le'Veon Bell didn't sit out the entire season for the Steelers that year, would they have been good? If Roethlisberger didn't get hurt the entire season last year,
there's always going to be those what ifs.
Yep. Yeah, but that doesn't factor in football because it's football. So I think you're right. I think tomorrow starts
5 p.m. starts football.
Yeah.
Yep.
And here's the big thing I'm going to look at with the season this year. I think the biggest thing I want to look at is what situation could come up for a team. Let's say, could a team roll into somewhere that they may have not been able to win in, like a tough place, a tough home situation, like I mentioned New Orleans in the past. I want to see how. One thing I'm going to look at this year is how many games that we would have thought in a normal year would be maybe 3 points. Let's say, for example, you think New Orleans already got 3 points on the board here. How the Vegas odds look for these games, let's say in New Orleans. That would be
because okay.
Seattle and New Orleans.
Seattle, because there's no home field. Yeah. That
I love to see how Vegas look.
Yeah,
because I haven't seen Vegas yet.
We're seeing that in basketball, though.
But I haven't seen the Vegas odds yet.
Because as much as you think football's affected, it's twice as much in basketball.
Oh, I know.
It always has been. Home court has always been the best thing you could have in basketball, and we're already seeing it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and that's a good point. That's a really good point.
But I want to see how the betting lines when they come out in a couple weeks. I want to see how the bettors in Vegas are kind of going because I'm curious. Because I would right now. I'd love to see what teams are putting money on. That's what I want to say.
JP, and Carl knows this. Here's the best advice in betting. The first 3 weeks of the NFL season, bet every single underdog. Because nobody knows what's going to happen in the season. Nobody knows who's going to be good, who's not going to be good. You're just guessing. And the lines are never accurate the first 3 weeks. After that, they start to level out, and And that's what's going to happen this year. That's what's going to happen this year. They're going to see what happened, how teams adjust to no fans, how, going into Seattle is not a tough thing anymore. But let's, we don't have a lot of time left. We have about 13 minutes. I want to do what we did last week, and I want to go through every division in the NFC. We did it with the AFC last week, and we want to rank the quarterbacks from 4 to 1. Okay?
Yeah.
Go.
All right. Let's start with what I think. Yeah, we won't start with that. Let's start with the worst division overall in football, I think, which is the NFC East.
Yeah.
I think this is the worst division in football. And we might argue on this. I think number 4 and number 1 are going to be the same. 2 and 3 might be different. We have the Washington Redskins with Haskins. We have the New York Giants with Daniel Jones. Cowboys with Dak Prescott. And the Eagles with Carson Wentz. I think we could all agree on who the number 4 is, right? Number 4 quarterback has to be Haskins.
100%. I was praying you were saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, JP, give me your number 3. Unless you need a minute to think about it, I know I just
Daniel Jones.
Yeah. Okay, Carl.
Yeah, Jones. It's going to be Jones.
I have not seen this guy finish a season. I have not seen this guy be impressive. I have not seen this guy be impressive.
Oh, gosh.
Other than the one. This is a guy who came from a small school with a big body, a lot of talent. Came in and was the MVP for the Eagles, but then he gets hurt and Foles comes in and wins the Super Bowl. So it obviously was the team that carried him, not the other way around. Does he have talent? Yeah. Is he injury prone? Yeah. Carson Wentz, I put it number 3 here because I think Daniel Jones, honestly, Daniel Jones is so overlooked. And I'm not a Giant fan. I don't want this to happen. But Daniel Jones, Daniel Jones is like in the history of football, no rookie ever had seasons like him as far as how many multi-game, how many multi-touchdown games he had.
You know
he had
why?
Like 3-4 touchdown games. And the bad games he had were not because of interceptions, because he had no protection, got hit, is learning how to cover the ball up and fumble. He had more fumbles than anything.
They had a lot of comebacks, too. They were down a lot, so he had to go out and pass it around.
Listen, that is not true for bad quarterbacks because Redskins are down all season.
If you notice, he broke the record for the most fourth quarter touchdowns in the season. He has no other choice.
Hold on. You always have another choice. That you could throw interceptions. You could throw it in incomplete. There's no – if he comes back and throws a touchdown in the fourth quarter, it's impressive. I don't care if you're down by 60. You have how many quarterbacks in this league can't do that? Is Trubisky going to do that?
I don't think
this kid was a rookie walking into a situation where he was just, the coach was terrible, everything around him was terrible, and he still performed. Watch. How many quarterbacks, we're spoiled right now by having the last 2 years probably the best 2 young quarterbacks we've ever seen.
Does this block us off in the 2-hour mark?
No, we are not. We're not limited by anything here.
Okay. Just want to make sure because
we got 10 minutes, but we could go over. Over. But we had Mahomes and Jackson come in and just be like, the 2 best talents we've ever seen as rookie quarterbacks or second-year quarterbacks. We're spoiled by that. You got to remember, a guy coming into a situation like those 2 teams were good teams. Kansas City was a good team. The Ravens were a good team. The Giants are not a good team, and they have a terrible, terrible defense. And Daniel Jones still showed promise last year. I think Daniel Jones is number 2 here, and he's on his way to number 1 easily.
Wow.
Yeah. I think here's the reason why I ranked him 3 behind Wentz. It's right now. I think he's still got a little bit more to go before I think he's not. I think he can go immediately from 3 to 1 because I don't think Prescott's all that he's cracked up to be. Did they sign his contract yet? Did he get a contract yet or no?
He franchised, right?
Franchise.
Yeah, but he didn't get a new contract, which is
but he will.
That tells you how much Dallas thinks of him.
Yeah,
that's another story.
That's a different. Yeah.
Carl,
what do you? So you got Wentz at number 2. Tell me why.
No, I got Jones at number 3.
Yeah,
and I got Prescott at number 2.
You have Wentz at number 1.
I got Wentz at number 1. I got Prescott.
Prescott's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL the past 2 years.
Prescott should have been an MVP the last 2 years if it wasn't for a miracle. I mean, record-breaking Mahomes and Jackson, Prescott would have been an MVP. But with Wentz, if you go by what he had and what he has, now the injury stopped him. I didn't like him, and I don't like him. But overall, with the team he has surrounded with him, he's going to be good again this year. And he's going to make the playoffs, and I think he's going to win the division.
Time out. Remember one thing. You're talking about this year. He just lost all of his wide receivers.
Yeah, I never thought he had any.
Well, Jeffrey is hurt.
I never thought Jeffrey was good.
Well, then what does he have? Hold on. Then what does he have?
He makes them. He's another quarterback that, like a Wilson, that makes things work. And he always did. And now
he hasn't yet. He hasn't yet.
He has an offensive line and a running game. That kid could run the ball, and he has they stacked up the offensive line for him, and he's gonna be good. And look at what he did when he was healthy. His stats are unbelievable when he's healthy. Okay,
right, yeah. But he's never. Hold on.
He played the whole
year. He's never healthy though.
He played the whole year last year.
No, he got hurt last year.
No, he played the whole year.
Played 16 games.
Yeah. Yep. First time since he was 8 years old.
I know McNown played a game last year.
He played the whole year last year. And I don't know if he made the playoffs or not. I don't know what went on last year. I forget. But anyway, He played. He did good, very good.
They made the playoffs.
There you go. And now you got this kid Sanders. That's very good. And
Miles Sanders is a good player.
So with the running game with him, Wentz is going to be back like he was a couple of years ago when he got injured, and he's just going to say, "I think he's good. I really do." So I got.
Go ahead. All right. Go ahead, JP.
Number 2.
Number 2, Carson Wentz.
Number 2, yeah. I mean, I would never.
I don't need to say anymore. Just Wentz.
And number 1, Prescott. I think Prescott he's my number 1 too. He's one of the best in the league. He's underrated. You know, a lot of times these guys play on good teams and they're just this. You know, ask Carl for years. I would every year pick Russell Wilson as my fantasy quarterback because he was so underrated. Like he was the best quarterback in the league, or one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Even had a Super Bowl, which Dak doesn't have. And everyone would always pass him up. For some reason, there's just a mental block with some of these guys. You just don't want to admit they're that good. And Dak Prescott is that good. He's absolutely that good.
Yeah, number 2, I got my Prescott. And the only reason is because I think that his ability of accuracy of passing the ball is still not great. He's a good runner, but he just can't nail it. He cannot nail it.
Hold on, Carson Wentz is not accurate though. But I don't want to spend too much time on this. Let's move to the next division. We'll go to the NFC North.
Oh,
that's an interesting one because there's some players here on the upswing and some on the down. Well, maybe.
I think it's an easy one.
Maybe not. Now after you hear me, you got
or me
Rodgers and Rodgers in Green Bay. You got Cousins in the Minnesota, Detroit, Stafford, and we got to put Trubisky in Chicago. I don't think, honestly, can we just say Chicago? Let's say Chicago's number 4, Trubisky or Foles.
Yeah, I was going to say this is like.
Carl, you agree to that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So Chicago's number 4. So now, JP, give me your number 3 quarterback. I think we'll all agree on this one too. We should.
I'm going to say something here that I think could be interesting. Cousins.
Yeah, me too.
Because I was thinking Stafford. I was thinking you were going to say Stafford.
No.
For some reason.
Then you're going to be real surprised.
No way. Stafford's one of my favorite quarterbacks. I think he's one of the best.
Then you're going to be real surprised.
I was thinking Stafford at 3.
No.
All right, so you got Cousins at 3. I got Cousins at 3. Carl?
I got Cousins at 3.
Okay. Number 2, JP.
Stafford.
Okay. Carl?
Give Stafford what Rodgers always had, and Stafford be much better. I say Rodgers.
Me too. For this reason. I think Rodgers is what he always was. He's a very accurate quarterback. I think he's a baby. I think he pouts. And I think that he's in a run-first offense now, which doesn't suit his ego. And last year, they went 13-3, yeah. And they'd probably win a lot of games.
He's not going to be there next year. I don't think he's there next year, though.
This year. Yeah, he'll be there next year.
I think they trade him.
Maybe, but we're not getting into that. Yeah, that's not. I think Stafford is my number 1 because last year when he was healthy, they were what 3-0-1 or 2-0-1.
Yeah, yep. Then
he got hurt. Stafford for years has been this quarterback, a lot like Matt Ryan. Matty Ice, was this great quarterback, and then he went into this downturn where everyone thought he sucked. It was only because they didn't surround him with anything. And then he became a Super Bowl quarterback, which he should have won, but his coaches suck.
But the problem is with
Detroit, I think Stafford's the same way. Stafford is going to put up huge numbers. They're going to win games.
They got a defense, an offensive line, and they got a running back now.
As crazy as it sounds, I would still take Rodgers over Stafford. If you told me I have one quarterback to win, I'm taking Rodgers over Stafford. You tell me I got to pick one of them to win me the game. Stafford's the one I'm giving the ball to.
No, Rodgers.
No, Rodgers. Stafford's not the one I'm giving the ball.
I've argued against Rodgers for years, and I'll say the same thing now. Rodgers is like one of the best quarterbacks you've ever seen, right?
I mean, I think he's, put it this way, I think he's a good quarterback. I'm not going to say he's one of the best.
Well, most people say he's one of the. All right, maybe you don't think that high. I thought you did. A lot of people think he's one of the best they've ever seen. How does a quarterback that's that good go to one Super Bowl and have consistently good teams and consistently good years and go to one Super Bowl?
I mean, I'll say this. Look how many quarterbacks in the NFL that are great quarterbacks. Jim Kelly went to 4 and lost them. Boomer Esiason was a damn good NFL quarterback. He lasted in the league a long time. He only got to go to 1. There are a lot of good quarterbacks who have been very, very good quarterbacks.
No, nobody puts Boomer Esiason on the best quarterbacks ever. I don't. He's not even.
He's not the best quarterbacks ever, but he was one of the best of his time. That's how I view Rodgers.
No, hold on. No,
not even in the top 10, man.
Not even. No.
But considering, I'm not going to say he's top 10, but he was one of the best of the time. I'd say if you take.
No, he wasn't.
You take.
He wasn't. No, hold on. What Carl said is right. He wasn't top 10 of his time.
Right.
He was. You have Elway, you have Marino, you have Montana. Yeah. No. Listen, Rodgers is a Hall of Famer. Hall of Famer, considered one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
Exactly.
I think most people put him in the top 10, if not some higher.
I don't think he's the top 10 of all time. I don't think he's top 10 of all time.
All right, but most people do. So you're agreeing more with me. I don't put him there because he is accurate, but he doesn't win the big games. And Jim Kelly is a perfect example. I, for years, argued this. They always said Jim Kelly and John Elway couldn't win the big game. If you get to a Super Bowl, that means you won a big game to get to the Super Bowl. Because the championship game is a big game. And Rodgers couldn't win the championship game.
You know what I think of Rodgers as? I view him as a little bit worse Dan Marino.
No.
Where he was a good player. Where Dan Marino, here's why I'm going to say this. I view him as not the same player. Not the same player as Dan Marino. I'm saying career-wise. He's a little bit worse Dan Marino because Dan Marino with Miami he was close to the Super Bowl.
Rodgers would never last what Marino had to go through.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. I'm not disputing that. I'm just talking about.
But there are people, Carl, that put Rodgers above Marino. There are.
Must be fans.
I'm just saying. When you look at what both of them accomplished, when you look at how both of them accomplished in their careers, by team wise, not individual stat wise. I'm talking about team accomplishment wise, what their teams did. I view him kind of like a little bit of the poorer man's.
It's honestly not a terrible comparison for this reason. Marino was in championship games like Rodgers. Marino had good teams like Rodgers and never got there. Only got to one Super Bowl like Rodgers. Rodgers won his Super Bowl. Marino lost his Super Bowl. It's not a terrible comparison. They're not the same quarterback, though.
No, they're not. I'm not calling them the same. I'm just saying
Rodgers is just like a technician. He's so accurate. But I don't want to spend too much time on this. So mine is Stafford number 1. I could go either way, though. I could see Rodgers. I might be a little silly saying Stafford there, but
no.
The only reason I say
what do you say, Carl? Well, I don't want to stay too long on this, though, JP. I want to get to the other two. Yeah. But I agree with you.
I agree with the Stafford move and how he's number 1. And I think he's been always one of the top quarterbacks. I mean, last year he broke his back and he got hurt and everything. They were 3-0-1. He's a player. Stafford takes a beating. He's a player. Yeah. And they finally developed a healthy team, hopefully, this year. They got the line, the defense, and they got a running game now. And I think if Stafford can stay healthy after, what went down now, the lawsuits going on with his wife and him against the NFL and everything. If everything go right with him, which I think it will, I think he's going to be a hell of a quarterback. And I think you're going to see Detroit win 8 or 9 games this year.
Only thing that worries me about Detroit is I think that head coach is gone. You heard this with Chip Kelly when he was winning, when he was with Philly, that the players just hated him. And that's what you hear out of Detroit.
You did last year.
The players just hate him. Adam Gase goes through the same thing. I just worry about that. But, yeah, they're talented. They have definitely on both sides of the ball, they should be good. But
Good.
let's move
But here's
on.
the thing with Detroit, though. This is the winner that, like you're saying, with this Patricia's
Let's
winner.
wrap it up on this one. So wrap up this division. Go ahead.
I have Rodgers.
No.
No.
Yeah. No, you already said that. What were you going to say about Detroit? And
This
then we'll wrap it up.
This is Detroit's win or else year, where if you're Detroit, if you don't win, I think you got to consider the future drafting a quarterback. You got to look at, with this year's deep quarterback class, it could be deep because there could be 3 to 4 quarterbacks in the top 12 this year. Top
How
12
old is
players on the
Stafford?
board. Stafford came out over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
He's going to be mid-30s.
He's due. They're due for a quarterback.
Yeah. Look, if you tell me they're going to go like top 3 or 4 and take a quarterback, yeah, I can see that.
Like, here's the thing. They were already talking about taking Tua this year. People were saying they would take Tua. He would be 33 next season.
Oh, that's not that old. That's not that old.
He got 2 seasons left in this contract. He's good.
Yeah, I wouldn't. If they won 3 games and they took a quarterback, I wouldn't be surprised. Let's move on to the NFC West. This is an interesting one because you have 2 mediocre quarterbacks and 2 that people say are the best.
No, I'm going to disagree with you on that. I think you got 4
For what?
capable quarterbacks. I think you got 4 very capable
All right.
quarterbacks.
Hold on. Let me introduce it first. Jesus. So you have San Francisco with Garoppolo, who everyone criticized in the first of all in the NFC Championship game. Carl, what did he throw? Like 6 passes?
Yeah.
And everyone, I didn't buy into that. I thought I think he's a serviceable quarterback. He's a good quarterback. When I said mediocre, I didn't mean like 500 quarterback. I meant like a good quarterback in the league. You know who I'll equate him to? Jared Goff. These guys can win, but they're not a top tier quarterback. So you got Garoppolo and Jared Goff, and then you have 2 of the best in the league coming into this year, which is Russell Wilson every year. And this kid showed me up because I absolutely railed against him for months to be the number 1 pick and to be successful. And that's Kyler Murray. And this style quarterback is really the norm right now as far as, the best quarterbacks in the league is these style of quarterbacks that can run and pass. You have Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Garoppolo, and Goff. Who's your number 4, JP? First.
Goff.
Who's your number 4? Goff? Carl?
Jimmy G.
Yeah. I think this is like a tie for 4th for me, and I'll go with Garoppolo for one reason.
I'm gonna make your jaw drop where I'm having him.
Okay, let me explain myself first, and then you can. Garoppolo for one reason. I think every single one of these quarterbacks is good enough to win a Super Bowl, right? And be your franchise quarterback. I would take any one of them, but Garoppolo does not have as many weapons around him. He does have an offensive-minded coach. Yes, he's on a run-first team, and he is in a situation where he has to do enough to win. Sometimes, and ask the Saints, that's throwing for 300-400 yards and scoring 48 points, which he did. He can do that, but on a week in week out basis, and Russell Wilson, who I'm going to get to later, is a perfect example of this. He's a quarterback that was in the situation that both Garoppolo and Goff are in, where his team was a defensive-oriented team, so he didn't have to do as much. When the defense got old and shipped out, then you see what the quarterback's really about. And I don't think Jimmy G can, if he didn't have a defense, can carry a team by himself. I don't think he can. And that's why I'm putting him at number 4.
He can't carry a team by himself. And
I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
And he
didn't. Yeah. Up in the Super Bowl.
That's enough said. When he threw a couple here, a couple there. When they had to put the pressure on him to do it, he failed. And the running game and the defense was the thing that carried San Fran, and he couldn't work. Oh, he had 5 touchdowns against New Orleans. Okay, quarterbacks do that. Some quarterbacks get that done. And he had a good game that game. But if you're going to put the team on your back to say, look, you need to carry the team, we're down by 14, Jimmy is not the guy to go with. And I from the day one, since he got traded there and signed that huge contract, because an offensive coach's mind thinking it's another Matt Ryan, I think he's not worth it, and I don't think he's down on the bottom of my list of many quarterbacks.
I think they could still win with him. I think he could still win. I'm not going to put him in a situation like I'm not going to say that, for us to elevate Matthew Stafford all the way up and put Jimmy G all the way down is not exactly fair. I don't think that there's that much difference between, you could win with Jimmy G.
They would have won maybe the Super Bowl in that last drive against Kansas City if they had Stafford. I would put Stafford.
Yeah, hold on. But they're giving up points to Mahomes. I mean, come on.
They needed a touchdown.
I'm just shaking my head no to that.
I know. That's a lot.
I'm shaking my head no.
And like I said before, he got them there. So he's got to be a decent quarterback. He got them there. But let's go with number 3. Number 3, obviously, for me is Goff. Goff has showed, too, that he could definitely elevate his game where he could win a game against the top team. Absolutely. Now, once he loses everything around him, can he still carry a team? Not like the 2 that are ahead of him. JP, who's your number 3?
Kyler Murray.
Okay. Explain.
I'm just saying that. I don't think there's not really much there to say about him. I think it's the fact that right now I think he's got the 3rd best resume in that division. I think even though Goff has gone to the Super Bowl, I think right now he's a better player than Goff. He's got
the 4th best resume if you go by Super Bowls, because 3 of the quarterbacks we're talking about were in the Super Bowl.
I think he's had a better – I think he's right now had a better resume even though he hasn't been to the Super Bowl. I think going into year 2, he's had a way better resume than Goff did. I think he's got a very good resume compared to, let's say, if you put him in another division, I'd be saying probably
Goff was in the Super Bowl.
But even though Goff's been in the Super Bowl, I think Kyler Murray's the better player of the 2. I think he's got the better resume right now.
I agree. I'll put him above him. Yeah.
But also,
go ahead.
This is the last thing I'm going to say on him. But also remember, that Rams team did do terrible in that Super Bowl as well.
Yeah, same with – listen, all 3 of these quarterbacks that have been in the Super Bowl in this division have lost one.
Yeah.
Although Russell Wilson, it's because his coach lost it, but still, he lost one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we could say that about all 3 of them. Carl, who do you have at number 3?
It's Goff.
Same here.
It's Goff, but only for one thing. This will prove, and this is going by this year. This is not going by all time what I think he's great, who's better. This year it's going to be Goff, and it's because they took away some weapons. Now, if he could come out and prove himself and start what he did, he has a new running back. They took 2 wide receivers away from him, and everything. If he could come out and he could light up the sky there and start playing like he did a couple of years ago, my mind will be changed. But right now it is Goff.
And we should clarify that it's not about what's going to happen in their career. Because obviously, if you're starting a team today, you're going to take Kyler Murray because he was a rookie last year. It's this year and past. You could go by past performances leading into this year, what you think's going to happen, who the best quarterback is at this point this year. My number 2 is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray made me look silly. He made me look stupid. I railed against him. I said there's no way they should have traded Rosen and drafted 2 quarterbacks in the first round, back-to-back years. But, in that system, and I railed against the head coach, who's the offensive coordinator. Yeah, they showed a lot. And don't forget, he's getting the best or one of the best wide receivers in the league this year. And Hopkins is going to be his wide receiver. That's huge. Huge. I got Kyler Murray as my number 2. JP, you're number 2.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay, explain.
I've been high on Garoppolo forever. I've liked him since he was in New England. I thought he was going to be the next. I really liked him because of how he played.
Yeah, everyone did. Yeah.
I've been higher on him than most people because I made a bold statement that I think he would have if he stayed in New England. This was back when he was in New England that he would.
But everyone said that he was the heir apparent. He was the heir apparent.
Not the heir apparent. That he would win a Super Bowl and he would win 2 in a row. I said that if they gave him the keys to the castle, he could definitely keep him going for 2, maybe 3 in a row.
Okay.
And I think with San Francisco, I think he's going to do this year what he's going to do. I think he's going to take him right back. And my gut's telling me the only guy stopping him is going to be in Seattle. And that's the only thing that could stop him is going to be that team up north.
No.
And even then, I think they could beat him.
Okay. Carl, you're number 2.
Russell Wilson
Huh.
is my number 2.
I knew this.
You know what? My number 2 pick is Russell Wilson, all because the team he's going to do great like he always does, but he's got that one more step that he needs. The offensive line isn't good, and he's going to struggle a little bit, and he still don't have that perfect running game that used to carry him when he was great and won the Super Bowls. And that defense, they're starting to. They got Adams. They're starting to shape that Carroll defense up again to give him a hand to do it. I just think Russell's going to struggle a little bit this year. He's not going to be totally shit, but he's going to struggle this year. So I'm not going to put him to that level saying it's going to be Russell Wilson that's going to carry this division or the quarterback ratings. I still love him. I still think he's great, and I will never underestimate Mike's pick in anything with Russell being underestimated because he is. He's one of the underestimate thing, and I follow that. But he is my number 2 in this division this year.
So this is the one, as much as I got Kyler Murray wrong, I've always been right about Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has gone through a rebuild of his entire team. And this is Tom Brady did the same thing. Rebuild of his entire team where he had no running back around him. He had no wide receivers around him. Lockett has always been good, yeah, but basically no one around him. He's still, if you watch him, and I watch him all the time because I always have him in fantasy, just finds a way to win. He just finds a way to win the game. And he should have beat San Francisco last year. They got stuck on the 1-yard line at the end of the game, regular season. Russell Wilson's the, top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the league. Even with the young guys coming up, this is one of the best quarterbacks of this generation, and he still got it. He still has it. He's still the best. I think it's funny that the one guy who hasn't been to the Super Bowl has 1 year under his belt. You put it number 1, but I get it. He's flashy. Russell Wilson just goes about his business every year. And last year was funny because he had such a good beginning of the season, and so many quarterbacks got hurt in the beginning of the season that Carl brought up, his idol, Stephen A. Smith, who said it was racist that we're now saying Russell Wilson is an MVP candidate. He's always an MVP candidate. He's always there. He's always has a good year. His team is always good. It's just everything around him people focus on.
There's another
Russell
team.
Wilson is a great Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's number 1 in this division, without a doubt.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you on Wilson. Number 1.
All right, give me your number 1. Let's go through this quick because we're getting late now.
Number one for that division.
Yeah, Kyler Murray. Go ahead.
Is Kyle Murray. He did awesome last year. He did what he had to do last year. Okay. He got Hopkins. He got that running back, Drake back. He got his thing. He's the Jackson of this year. He's gonna show up, and and you know what? I'll put this out there. He's the MVP of the season. That's my prediction.
Listen, not a crazy thing to say.
No, I'm disagreeing on that. I don't think.
Let me ask you.
I said Mahomes, and I said Jackson.
Time out.
2 years in a row.
That's what I'm saying.
This dude right here.
JP, last year, Jackson, his second year MVP. Year before, Mahomes, his second year MVP. Not a crazy thing to say. Not a crazy.
I'm going to give you that in second year, but I just don't think it's tremendous.
He has one of the best running wide receivers in the league coming to his team. But let me get your number 1 because I want to zip through this. I don't want to be here all night.
I already said Wilson.
You already said Wilson. All right, let's go to NFC South, which I think is the best, as far as historical wise, it's insane. Carolina
we should agree on
Panthers.
number 4.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, Carolina Panthers has to be number 4. But then you have Tampa Bay with Brady in an offensive-minded system. You have Matty Ice in Atlanta, former MVP, and you have Drew Brees. I mean, I don't even know how to go here. I don't even know how to go here, but I'm going to let you guys go first. Just go quick. JP, who's your number 3?
All right, I might raise an eyebrow.
You almost can't go wrong here with 1, 2, 3. You almost can't go wrong.
I would say Brady.
Okay, Brady number 3. Understandable. Old, new system. Didn't look great last year.
I think he's number 3, but I still think I think 3 teams make the playoffs out of this division.
Yeah, listen, you have 3 MVPs here. So whatever you say can't be wrong. Carl, where do you go number 3?
I agree. Tom Brady. No, and I'm a big fan of Bridgewater. I just don't think he has it with that team. But Brady's number 3.
I say Matt Ryan for the simple reason that I think that the offensive coaches on the other 2 teams are much better than what Atlanta has as far as an offensive coach. I think Ryan is going to have I think all 3 of these quarterbacks are going to have a great season. I say Matt Ryan number 3.
All right. The only thing I have about that with Brady, real quick, is that if Brady had his worst season under Belichick and Daniels, I'm not sure going over to the other side here. No, he is good, Aries. I think his age caught up to him, and I think he's going to be good. But I think his age caught up to him. He's not going to be in a top 2 quarterback in that.
I think that if Arians could revive Winston, Carson Palmer, and Kurt Warner, I think that he could easily revive Brady to have a good season. Whether it's going to go past this, I don't know, but I think he could easily. JP, who's your number 2?
Matt Ryan.
Okay. Like I said, you can't go wrong. Can't go wrong here. Matt Ryan, okay. Carl.
Drew Brees.
Same here.
Drew Brees is my 2. I also think his age is catching up. I think it's a little messed up last year. He wasn't all there.
He got hurt.
He got hurt.
Injury matters here. If you don't play for 10 games, that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just because a couple things that went on, I think Drew Brees is coming down a little bit. And he's 2. Don't get me wrong, though. He can still go to the Super Bowl, but in this division,
I think all 3 of them can. I got Drew Brees too for the simple reason that what I just said. I think that Brady is going to put up really, really good numbers in this system. I don't know if they're going to win a lot of games. I think he's going to get hit a lot, and he could lose some games. I think it could be a lot like Wilson last year, where you put up crazy numbers, but you don't. He's going to win more than 7 games. He could win 10 games, 9, 10 games, probably 10. But Bruce Arians is famous for reclamation projects and just putting the quarterback in a situation where he puts up huge numbers. So Brady's my number 1 in this division.
Yeah.
JP?
Drew Brees.
Can't go wrong there. Carl? Matty Ice?
Matty Ice, all because he got what he wanted, and he's always been good. And I think this is going to be a good year for them, the Atlanta Falcons. And
they got the new running back. See how Gurley does there.
But offensive line. They got a lot of
line.
Yeah. Tight end.
All right. Well, listen, guys. This is our first YouTube show. You could actually it's total. I have no idea if it's gonna work. I saw that we were live on YouTube. I'm gonna check it out. I'll send it to both of you. But I think it went pretty well. Other than Carl being, actually, Carl, you look great right now. You look. No, that's not an insult. You look better than anybody here right now. You look the best right now.
I like
it. Turn the lights too to match it.
I like it this way.
Only if you want to be number 2, but tied for number 1, because I'll definitely be in last place. But awesome job, guys. Carl, go get a computer so you could, join us. But I'm glad you got to join us, and it was an awesome job. Next week,
I tell you, doing whatever to my phone after 795 days, man. It really worked. It really.
He updated his phone for the first time in 2 years. Yeah. First time in 2.5 years, he updated his phone. Great. Next week, same stuff. We're going to get more into the NCAA. Football is not, this would be where we're really revving up for football, but we're so cautious on whether we're going to have anything.
Yeah.
But we're going to be halfway through the baseball season, basically, next week.
Yeah.
And we'll know who opted in and opted out. Great job. Anyone watching this on YouTube, this is Pass the Mic. I'm Mike Passamonte. This is Carl Graham in the black right now and JP. You can catch us every week. We are live on YouTube every week from 7 to 9 every Wednesday. Catch us next week.
So long, everyone.
So long. Good night, everybody.
All right, guys.